Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes so sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. Not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions and lemonade. Cool heads will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack's at Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Meshegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proceed, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes are sweet and sassy. Not just a YouTube show. When you know, cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Hello, my friends. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, my friends. Today is Sunday, January 19th, 2025. And I'm sure there are some of you out there who don't really care about football tonight. So here I am to entertain you. Thank you for coming to join with me and spend some of your cold, maybe snowy Sunday night with me. And it was snowing in Philadelphia. And the Eagles won that game, right? So that was good for them. This is such an interesting case to me. So many of you follow me from the Karen Reed case, right? And the Karen Reed case is so interesting to me because I've told you many times of my personal ties to Norfolk County and the corruption that I've been hearing about in the county since the late 80s, early 90s. And so this case was personal to me. Karen Reed was when I found out that it was happening in Norfolk County. And I started to dig into it a little more and read all the documents and uncovered some potential corruption, cover-up, incompetence, whatever you want to call it. And so many of you from Norfolk County did not know about the murder of Katie McLean. And that's upsetting to me. And so out of all the cases that I've covered, lots of cases, hundreds, millions of cases. I've had this YouTube channel for a year and a half. So all the cases that I've covered in the past year and a half, I have never heard from more friends of a victim than I have heard from friends from Dover, from Katie McLean. And that says something about Katie McLean. So many people have told me what happens in Dover stays in Dover. Things aren't talked about. So many of you who are watching from Dover don't want anybody to know that you're watching, want to remain anonymous. And I completely understand that. I've set the chat to subscribers only because of the troll factor from the Karen Reed case, because there are so many people out there who are so hate-filled and vitriolic that they have nothing better to do than to come into my chat and disrespect me, you, everyone here, and just attack. So I don't have that. I don't like it. I don't tolerate it. My moderators are the best on YouTube. If you've been with me for a while, you know that. Sometimes by the time the hateful comments are posted, they're already gone. So I thought that Katie McLean deserved a primetime Sunday night show, because I think most of the shows, well, this is the third show that I've done on this case. And I think the other shows were daytime shows. So here we are. We're going to tell Katie's story, because we've heard so far from the pleadings that we've gone over. We've heard Harry's story a bunch of times from the mouth of Kevin Reddington, who is his attorney, as you know. Kevin Reddington, also the attorney for Jennifer McCabe, one of the witnesses in the Karen Reed trial, also the attorney for Lindsay Clancy, another horrific story out of Massachusetts. But some of you who may not know a lot about the Tuerk case may not know that it was assigned to Judge Cannone until just recently when it was reassigned to another judge. So everything that happened, most of everything that happened pre-trial was Judge Cannone. Now it's been reassigned to a judge named Mark Hallal, who's coming out of Suffolk County to Norfolk. And on Friday, the defendant filed a motion for a change of venue. He wants it out of Norfolk County. He wants it out of Norfolk County. And we already looked at a motion from the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth was looking for at least a buffer zone in at least the amount of what happened during the last Karen Reed trial. They're submitting that it should be even a deeper, further buffer zone, because the Tuerk trial is scheduled for jury selection on March 25th, and Karen's trial is scheduled for jury selection on April 1st. And they think that the two cases are going to be happening in the same building at the same time. So the Commonwealth wants a bigger buffer zone, and now the defendant wants a different county. So I'm interested, and we'll go over that motion later at the end. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Do you guys think Dr. Harry Tuerk can get a fair trial in Norfolk County? A lot of people didn't even know that Dover was in Norfolk County. And that's interesting to me. Beth says, I'm in Massachusetts. I never heard about the cases of Tuerk and Brian Camp, and I live 30 minutes from where Brian Camp had court. Yeah, that was Hampshire County. That turned out to be a great verdict in the Brian Camp case. If you don't know about the Brian Camp case, you need to know about the Brian Camp case, because the day that I heard not guilty for Brian Camp was a great day. It restored my faith in the justice system in Massachusetts. And that was a horrific case of a home intruder who broke into Brian Camp's house where he was sleeping with his girlfriend and their two young children. And this guy, the home intruder, Jonathan Latender, tried to kill Brian Camp. And eventually, after a lot of fighting and a 20-minute 911 call, because apparently they live in a place where there was not a quick response time for police, Brian Camp, pocket Brian Camp, shot and killed the intruder. Well, he shot him once and that didn't kill him. And then after his girlfriend was on 911 for another 10 minutes or so, don't hold me to the times here, he shot the intruder again, which is what led to his death. And the prosecutor in Hampshire County said, well, you know, it's okay. The first shot was okay, but the second shot is what we're going to try you for. And not guilty was the verdict after only a very short trial. It was only like 3 or 4 days. And that was amazing. Also, Daniel Penny's not guilty verdict was amazing. Thank you, Jean Marie. That was another one. We had a couple of verdicts this year that were, or last year, I guess we're into a new year now, that were in the interest of justice, in my opinion, and some verdicts that were not so much in the interest of justice, in my opinion, including Ashley Benefield, who is going to be having a bail hearing, I think, this week. We're going to cover it. A lot of stuff to talk about on Ashley Benefield. She's going to spend the next 20 years in prison in Florida. Stand your ground didn't work for her. She wasn't even allowed to use stand your ground. I don't think. I think she was like allowed to use stand your ground, but the jury didn't believe it was stand your ground. They didn't even believe that she had been the victim of DV. And so Ashley Benefield is spending 20 years in prison. And there's another case that I want to bring to your attention now, but before I forget, because my thoughts race so much that I have to say things while I'm thinking of them. There's another case coming up in Florida, another stand your ground hearing. There was a dentist playing golf at a golf course in a community. And a guy who lives on the golf course, who happens to be a doctor also, is walking on the golf cart path with his wife. He's walked on that golf cart path hundreds and hundreds of times. But on this particular day in Florida, the dentist and his son are pulling up in a golf cart behind them, racing at them, start cursing at them, get off the path, blah, 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 blah. Turns out that the dentist in the golf cart, who's a member of this club, this country club, who's yelling at the guy who happens to live on the golf course and his wife, winds up spitting in his face and then beating him with a golf club. There's going to be a stand your ground hearing this week in Florida for the guy who beat the other guy with the golf club, because he's saying he was in fear for his life and he had every reason to use justifiable force. I don't know if you know about that case, but if this guy's allowed to use stand your ground and Ashley Benefield wasn't, that's it. I'm going on strike. It's unbelievable. That was nuts, right? Oh, sweetie, no. Did you see he did an interview the other day. The victim did an interview. I forget if it was on Court TV or where it was, but talking all about the incident. So it's crazy. Lindsay Clancy could be any woman. It's extremely sad. Yes, that is extremely sad. I agree with you. But you know what? You know what? So could Katie McLean. So could Katie McLean. And as much as we talk about corruption and bad police work and the incompetence of Canton PD and the horrific investigation led by Michael Proctor, who also, by the way, was involved in the investigation of the death of Katie McLean. In this case, in the Tuerk case, and in the case of Katie McLean, there is some really, really good police work. Really good police work. And shout out to Dover PD, who handled this in an incredible way. And also, there's one particular officer that we're going to talk about at Dover PD who really tried to help Katie McLean, really tried to help her, drove her to the courthouse to help her get a restraining order against Dr. Tuerk, who had been abusing her. And so sometimes we need to talk about the good stuff too. Sometimes we need to talk about the victims. And because so many of you wrote to me to tell me how great Katie was, let's tell Katie's story tonight. But first, Scarlet Begonias went to the standout in Canton today, and there was so much love and hugs. Free Karen Reed and justice for John O'Keefe. Amen, sis. Amen. Thank you. Thanks, Goodmans, for gifting a membership. And look at this. Somebody's already gotten a boarding pass to Block Island. Really? What was this guy? How could this guy come in here and say anything negative about Katie McLean or anything negative? Thank you, Goodmans. Love you. You know how much I love you guys. Already with the boarding pass to Block Island? That's crazy. Oh, well, Rodney. So sad. Too bad. So sad. Okay. All right. So far, I have not been able to uncover anything that Trooper Michael Proctor could have done wrong to screw this case up and prevent a conviction on Dr. Harry Tuerk, but let's hope, let's hope nothing is uncovered, because Bukhenik was involved in this too, as was Tully, Fanning, all the usual suspects. All the usual suspects. All right, so the best story that I found about Katie was, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, I don't know, you tell me, in Boston Magazine. And despite the fact that Kevin Reddington is arguing in his motion for change of venue that this case has received so much press, the Tuerk case, it's hard for me to find anything about it. The only press that I've been able to find about it is going back to when it happened, all the way back in 2020. Harry Tuerk has been sitting in Norfolk County jail for 5 years almost. And then when all of this additional stuff came out about Proctor, Tuerk started making the news again because of Proctor's involvement in it. And because of the fact that Proctor and his text messages and his work phone and his emails and all that stuff is going to become available to the Tuerk defense. I don't know if it's going to help them or not. So I'm going to read to you the article from Boston Magazine that was published all the way back in November of 2020. Because I think it gives Katie's side of the story, which I like. So far, we've only heard Harry's side, which made her look like a gold digger who was weaponizing the statute against him to get a restraining order and kick him out of his own house, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can find those details in the first two. I think it's the first show that I did on this, which is linked below in the show notes. So let's go back to Boston Magazine's article of November 2020. And let's also remember or think about all of the red flags. There's so many red flags here. There's so many red flags about DV. and about intimate partner violence and about all of the things that perhaps we can at least teach the generation coming up next to watch out for. It's horrible. It's horrible. And you know what? If Katie McLean had access to a firearm on the night in question, she might be the one on trial here. We may have another Ashley Benefield situation, which is so interesting to me. So interesting to me. And when I look at Katie McLean's last Instagram post, it breaks my heart. In any event, here's a picture of their home, 29 Valley Road in Dover. Just keep it up here while I read the story to you so you can get a little bit more insight into the life of Katie McLean. On a warm evening in mid-May, Ingolf Tuerk pulled his silver Mercedes G-Wagon into the 3-car garage at 29 Valley Road in Dover and sat down with his wife, Katie McLean, and 3 stepchildren for dinner. Familiar scenes of placid domesticity played out in similar homes across town, a wealthy pastoral suburb dotted with riding stables and sheltered by hundreds of acres of woodland reservations. This particular meal, though, marked a momentous occasion and a new beginning. Tuerk and McLean had been separated since early February, and Tuerk had not set foot in the house since then. A lot had changed in 3 short months. Bubbly and outgoing, McLean had a talent for making new acquaintances almost anywhere she went, volunteered her time at a handful of charities, and was famous for throwing seasonal holiday parties. Since the pandemic struck, though, she'd spent her days quarantining inside and scrubbing down her kitchen's granite countertops with Lysol. She'd also devoted herself to helping her teenagers, assisting with schoolwork, orchestrating art projects, and going on family nature walks along the nearby hiking trails to lift their spirits. Most important, McLean thought Tuerk had changed too. Having built a career as a New Age energy worker, McLean believed that people could grow and that love had the power to heal even the deepest wounds. And that's something that a lot of her friends pointed out to me, that Katie was a healer. She was a Reiki master, and that is what she did for a living. She also believed in signs from the universe. When a family of house finches built their nest behind the ornamental spring wreath she hung on the front door, McLean decided it was a good omen. And so on the evening of May 14th, 2020, right when the 4 little nestlings were about to take flight, McLean welcomed her husband back into their home. The pair were quite the couple. Tuerk, a well-known surgeon at St. Elizabeth's Medical Center with a muscular build and thick German accent, and McLean, a Reiki master with striking red hair. Together, they had 5 teenagers in Dover public schools, her 3 children from a previous marriage, and Tuerk's 2 children from his second marriage, who lived primarily with their mother, but often frequented the house. McLean, an all-American girl from Belmont, flew a German flag in honor of her husband below her stars and stripes from the tall pole on their green lawn, arguably the most perfectly manicured on Valley Road. Tuerk saw to it himself. On weekends, he could be found in front of his colonial mansion, riding back and forth on his lawnmower, barefoot. In February, though, McLean was planning to file for divorce and took down the German flag. Over the next 2.5 months, Tuerk alternated between a room at a lodger's hotel in another town and a friend's RV in Florida, where he made plans with real estate agents to sell the family home. Though they hadn't been engaged since March of 2018, when McLean moved in, the couple had only officially been married for a few months. The house was still in Tuerk's name alone. In late April, as a gesture to signify his devotion and commitment to their reconciliation, Tuerk added McLean's name to the deed for the house. It was their place now. McLean could go ahead and take down the for sale sign marring the lawn and put the German flag back up. He was a new man. Just to break for a second to remind you that they signed a postnup in late April, which many people did not know was a thing. A postnup is an agreement that is signed after the marriage, which resolves the same issues as a prenup, but it just takes place after the marriage. In the event of the divorce, in the event that there is a divorce, here's the way we're going to work it out. Same as a prenup. It's called a postnup. They entered into one in April during the panty. We're going to find out during the course of this article that there were something like 6 murders in Massachusetts that had to do with DV during the pandemic. One of them, actually, it wasn't a murder, but it involves another doctor in Dover. I'm going to talk about that after we read this. Many of you may not know about that one either. Dinner went well, and after the meal, Tuerk, McLean, and the 3 children gathered around the plush leather sofas and laughed while playing a board game. Afterwards, the kids went to the basement to watch TV while McLean and Tuerk stayed in the living room talking over drinks. It wasn't long, though, before they fell into old habits, arguing about text messages and fidelity. McLean hated to expose the children who could hear the yelling to their fights, so she and Tuerk went upstairs to the bedroom and shut the door behind them. Later that night, after the kids had gone upstairs to bed, one child heard a thump. The other heard the dog bark and the heavy footfalls of Tuerk pacing. When they were living together, Tuerk made McLean coffee in the morning. But when the children awoke the next day, the house was quiet and there was no earthly smell emanating from downstairs. The door to the master bedroom was locked and both cars were gone. Meanwhile, word of an odd text message circulated among McLean and Tuerk's social circle, along with a growing ripple of concern. Quote, "She is a vindictive devil. She played us all," Tuerk wrote to 2 friends at 4:30 a.m. that morning, according to a police affidavit. He also added that he was sorry. Tuerk didn't respond to calls or texts asking him to elaborate on what exactly he was sorry about. McLean wasn't answering her phone either. It was as if both of them simply vanished. McLean and Tuerk's relationship began like any modern romance, online. It was November 2017. Both of them had finalized their second divorces within the past year. Drawn to his rugged good looks, McLean was intrigued by stories of the surgeon's humble beginnings in communist East Germany. Tuerk admired McLean's maternal instincts and took her out for meals, live music, and rides on the back of his motorcycle around Dover, where he had recently bought a house. Tuerk served as chair of the urology department at St. Elizabeth's Medical Center, where he was celebrated as a kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger in medical scrubs. Just breaking for a second to remind you that we watched a part of a video and we got to hear his voice, and a lot of you pointed out that you thought he sounded a lot like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He not only rode motorcycles, but also claimed to have served as an alternate in the 1980 Olympic decathlon and was an early practitioner of robotic prostate surgery. After completing his residency in Berlin, Tuerk was recruited by American doctors to teach his novel technique in the United States. When Tuerk arrived in Virginia in 2001, he was married to his first wife and had 3 children. During a stint teaching in Virginia, he met his second wife, with whom he returned to Germany for several years before moving back to Massachusetts to work at the Leahy Clinic in Burlington. In 2008, St. Elizabeth hired him, and he eventually became a key figure of the hospital's advertising campaign. Billboards of Tuerk's hulking image, complete with a Harley-Davidson skull cap, towered over highways. A promotional video featured Tuerk pulling up to the hospital on his motorcycle, flexing his muscles and declaring, "Surgery is physically very demanding work." McLean, on the other hand, advertised her services as a Reiki master, psychic, and medium by word of mouth. Crystal Harrington, an eyelash technician in Hudson, often sought McLean's help to clear energy blocks and connect with her late grandmother. Katie knew things that nobody would know, says Harrington, adding that McLean's psychic readings almost always had a positive bent. Not only would McLean offer advice as though she were a friend, but many of her clients, including Harrington, said she often confided in them as well. She was one of those people that you really and truly wanted to be around, Harrington says. When McLean met Tuerk, she was a single mother living in a 3-bedroom house in Sudbury. After a whirlwind 4-month romance, Tuerk proposed to McLean and invited her and her 3 children to move into his new place, a 4-bedroom, 5,380 square foot home with gleaming hardwood floors that he had purchased for $1.7 million. And there is a picture of it. It was almost identical to the Dover home he had owned with his second wife. When McLean opened the wood-paneled door to 29 Valley Road for the first time, she found an empty house. The lack of furniture was no problem. She loved to decorate. Tuerk was a penny pincher, but that was something McLean could take care of once she sold her Sudbury house, which was Tuerk's idea, according to court documents. Okay, I'm breaking for a second to say, according to court documents that we also read recently, drafted by Tuerk's attorney, he claims that Katie's house was in foreclosure, and I think she was in a lot of debt, and, typical victim blaming, shaming. All the 4 months, red flag number 1, at least red flag number 1, right? That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking too. Yes, narcissists move quick, says Jen. Sounds like my ex, also German. Interesting. Big old dog remembers and says, I thought it was in foreclosure. Well, not according to this article, but according to his court papers, it does. Squirty belly. David says 4 months isn't a red flag because David's been married. David proposed in less than 4 months, is my guess. But look, works out for a lot of people. Maybe they thought third time was going to be the charm for both of them. She believed in love. That's what her friends tell me. She loved so hard and she just wanted to be loved. That's what they tell me. It was not in foreclosure. Jennifer Giuliano says it was not in foreclosure. Well, that's interesting because we're here when we read the papers the other day because that's what Kevin Reddington said in his papers. Thank you for that. Good. Thank you. Thanks, Dogman and Petey, who loves me and says I'm so amazing and honest. Love watching you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I have a lot of haters from my coverage of the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively saga. So I appreciate all the compliments that you can give me. Thank you so much. Star says, if he lied about a foreclosure, could that be used against him? Well, his attorney signed the papers. Tuerk did not sign an affidavit, interestingly enough, with those papers. So that was in their statement of the case. And there was a lot of stuff in there that, pretty much just for headlines. But there's that. But wait, because it gets worse. Her clients also say that Tuerk told her to go ahead and sell her minivan too because he wouldn't let her drive. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me start again. Back to 1. Her clients also say that Tuerk told her to go ahead and sell her minivan too because he would let her drive his G-Wagon that she so adored. Anybody know how much a G-Wagon costs? Aren't they up to something like $250,000 right now? And I think during the panty, they marked up the cost of a G-Wagon by like 100. It was like $100,000 VIG if you wanted a G-Wagon. The more sentences I read, even just in this article, the more I'm thinking coercive control. He wants her to get rid of her car. So now she has to rely on his car. And then what is he going to do? He's going to take the car away. Right? Red flag number 2. And the isolation and the control begins. And she could stop paying rent for her studio space as well. Why not see clients in the house if that was something she still wanted to do? All of her needs would be taken care of so long as she paid $1,000 a month toward the mortgage and chipped in to renovate the basement gym and outdoor pool. At first, their visions of domesticity complemented each other well. McLean, a self-described neat freak, liked the idea of being a modern-day homemaker, and Tuerk liked his home to be orderly. Even when Tuerk pulled his motorcycle into the driveway from the hospital, he found a spotless home. Oh, not even when. Every day when he came home on his motorcycle, he found a spotless home. And his beautiful girlfriend waiting to pour him a drink and sit with him on the couch while he relaxed after a busy day. McLean was convinced they would grow old together. Sounds like something on a Mad Men, my friends. I love Mad Men. The couple was a welcome addition to the exclusive neighborhood in Dover. And I know that because so many of the people in the neighborhood have written to me. Hello, all my anonymous friends from Dover. If you hit the subscribe button, nobody's going to know. Nobody can find out who you are. It's free, and it also helps the algorithm, and it helps push the story out. Also, feel free to share the stream and the channel with anybody that you think may be interested in this, because I do not think it's getting enough press, and I think it needs to be, because the trial's coming up at the end of March and 30, the end of January. And it's been 5 years that this guy's been sitting in jail, and his family deserves closure and justice for Katie and her poor children. I hope her children are okay. My understanding is that they're with their dad, Steve Rocca. And so my prayers go out to the children. I can't even imagine having to live with this for so long. The couple was a welcome addition to the exclusive neighborhood in Dover. Tuerk was happy to dispense medical advice to neighbors in need and help set up doctor's appointments, while McLean won hearts with the homemade cookies she left on doorsteps. In the evenings, the couple could be seen strolling up and down the streets hand in hand, along with their yellow lab, Cooper. As one neighbor observed, they were like the perfection of suburbia. Not everything at 29 Valley Road, though, was perfect as the lawn. Neighbors Rick and Nancy, who asked not to have their last names appear in print, say McLean told them, okay, here's red flag number, I don't know what we're up to, 3, 4. Listen. One day when Tuerk opened a closet and found the shelves disorganized, he pulled everything out and ordered McLean to put it all back neatly. Anyone? He trashed the closet, told Katie to put everything back neatly. When Katie wasn't keeping up to his expectations, he'd forbid her from using the G-Wagon and tell her to take his Jeep instead, clients said. And some days, he wouldn't let her drive at all. I don't know what number we're up to, but we're coming up on 10. Tuerk was known to combine his hard discipline with condescending remarks and controlling behavior. Katie was no wallflower. She could hold her own in an argument and was known to have a jealous streak herself, but his words got to her. Her clients said, "Run, Katie, run." According to an interview she later gave to the police, Katie said Tuerk also used her iPhone's tracking app to monitor her location, made regular calls to check in, demanded to see her phone to find out who she had been talking to. Textbook coercive control, says Ducati girl. He was tracking her, he was stalking her, and they were living together. This reminds me so much of what was going on with Doug Benefield and Ashley Benefield. Put a tracker on her car. He tried to rent the house right behind her in Florida, even though there was a restraining order against him in North Carolina. Like number 46, controlling her. Dewey, there is no let in my marriage, right? Nobody's going to let me do anything. Nobody's going to tell me what I can't do. So I tell my girls, always make your own money. Always have your own career. Don't ever let any man tell you, or woman, whichever way you want to go, tell you how much money you can spend, because financial control is a real thing. Always, always, always have your own money, your own bank account. Oh, hell no, says Denise. What's a G-Wagon? Gwen wants to know what a G-Wagon is. It like the super duper Mercedes? It looks like a tank. It looks like kind of what the old Hummer used to look like. And because you don't see Hummers that much anymore, let's just see what they're going for now. 2025 G-Wagon is starting at $148,000. Here's what it looks like. There's the 2025 Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. Quite lovely. I mean, I don't really like it. My kids loved it because I think they would see it a lot on TikTok. Oh my gosh, how's everybody doing with the having to not be on TikTok for like 12 hours? People were freaking out, not me. My kids. A lot of people make their living on TikTok. They were pretty upset by it too. Anyway, I'm not a huge fan of the way it looks. I think it looks like a little too army-ish. Like it looks like an army Jeep to me, and it doesn't look like it's very comfortable, but all the celebrities have them. And I think during the panty, they were something like marking them up like over $100,000 over list. So I don't know what they're going for now, but hella lot of money, status symbol, etc. Crazy. All right, so he's tracking her, demanding to see her phone. He made it look like she was demanding to see his phone too in his papers. So this is just a story from Boston Magazine. Combine that with the video cameras installed throughout the house, and Katie felt like she was being constantly surveilled. I don't know what number we're up to, but video cameras inside the house watching her when he was at work. A little disturbing. Just a little disturbing. Once, she said in the police interview, Tuerk asked her to print out her incoming and outgoing call list and then dialed every number. Red flag number 700. Katie had an enviable figure and was fond of running 5Ks, but now Tuerk started monitoring her weight as well, according to news reports. Monitoring her weight. Harrington saw a noticeable change in Katie after she got involved with Tuerk. Her makeup was runny and her hair wasn't as well kept. It was like her energy had been sucked out of her, she said. Meanwhile, Katie told her clients Tuerk was struggling with anxiety and took a leave from his job in May of 2019. There were times, she confided, when she found her motorcycle riding husband curled up in the fetal position crying. Katie assumed he was reeling from the death of a patient and was committed to supporting him no matter what happened. Later that month, as Katie told her neighbors, Tuerk went on a trip to Germany, and Katie found herself alone in the big house on Valley Road, wondering against her better angels whether there could be other reasons for her husband's deteriorating mental health. She knew Tuerk kept a vault hidden in the house. What could be in there? Unable to resist the temptation, she cracked it open and came across something unexpected, a trove of documents detailing a malpractice lawsuit. She also discovered papers related to an investigation by the Attorney General's office alleging that Tuerk had charged Medicare more than $31,000 over a 6-year period by writing off patients' visits with medical residents as if he had seen them himself, and had billed for ultrasound services he never performed. I started to see someone I never knew, Katie told her neighbors. We went over those charges, I think, during the last stream. Rachel Rollins was the U.S. attorney at the time. Around the same time, Katie and Tuerk's relationship started to take an even darker turn, Katie's clients say. Still, she felt that her nurturing and gifts as a healer would pave the way for things to get better between them. Another red flag, she thinks she can fix him. She even treated Tuerk with Reiki to ease his stress. As summer turned into fall, this would prove a bigger challenge than she thought. In November of 2019, Tuerk settled with the Attorney General's office, agreeing to pay a $150,000 fine, and was fired from his job at St. Elizabeth's. His professional fall from grace made a bad situation even worse at home. In December, Katie said during her interview with police, she and Tuerk were in the bedroom arguing when Tuerk allegedly grabbed her, smashed her head into the headboard, and put one hand over her throat and the other over her mouth. Over her nose and mouth. She closed her eyes and everything went black. When she snapped to, she screamed so loudly that one of the children heard her. She texted some of her close friends that before she closed her eyes, all she saw was Harry's face full of rage. I thought, honestly, he wanted me dead, Katie later said in a text to one of them. Red flag number 457. And here's 458. Tuerk apologized profusely. He told her he loved her, and they had sex twice, according to Katie's interview with the police. The following week, Harry took Katie on a vacation to Las Vegas. What number are we up to now? When she stepped off the plane, Harry surprised her with a Nevada marriage license, finally making good on his proposal from more than a year earlier. Katie saw it as an apology for his violent outburst the week before. They went to a Vegas chapel in the neon glare of the Strip and had a drive-through ceremony that came with poker chips as souvenirs. Hi, Laura. Thanks for the 5. If I always had to agree with you, I wouldn't have any friends. You're perfect the way you are. Thanks. Thanks, Laura. Red flag number 666. Debbie says, of course he did. Typical abuser. Of course he did. Of course. I'm going to put the picture of I like that picture of the house. Thought it was a good touch, but now I can't find it. Oh well. Tis what it is. A million red flags. When the newlyweds returned home, things were different, but not in the way that Katie had hoped. Harry wasn't working anymore, and he wasn't sleeping either. Katie told her neighbors how he would wake up at strange hours and lift weights in the basement gym. He drank whiskey during the day and rarely showered. On January 11th, after Katie shut her phone off during a massage, she came home to find Harry waiting for her in the doorway, accusing her of ducking around. He didn't say ducking, I say ducking. According to McLean's interview with the police, he wrapped his arms around her 5'8" frame, picked her up, and dropped her on her back. She hit the floor so hard that her shoes flew off her feet. When McLean asked why he had thrown her to the floor, Tuerk said he hadn't. She simply must have slipped from his embrace. What number are we up to now? But that's interesting. He dropped her so hard. He dropped her so hard that her shoes fell off. In the Karen Reed case, they want you to believe that John O'Keefe's shoe fell off because he was hit by a car. Could have been because he was attacked by a dog or because he was in a fight. I'm just saying. Also pointing out, she was in a massage. I thought she was getting a massage, but I think she was giving a massage. I don't know because she's a Reiki master. So could she have been giving or doing a Reiki session? I don't know. I thought maybe she was at a massage. And then he said in his paper she was gone for 6 hours and he got really mad when she got back. So there's that. Moon Goddess is like, I might have to go to this trial. That's what I was thinking too. I was thinking that too. Because Katie's memory deserves people to watch this guy go down. Because he confessed, by the way, too. He confessed. If you're not following this case, you don't know that he confessed. But he did. They tried to get his confession and his interview. That was audio recorded, by the way, in the hospital for 3 hours because the MSP did know how in 2020 anyway, even during the height of the panty, to audio record statements of witnesses and potential suspects. So there's that. Thank you, Moon Goddess, for your super chat. We don't know what county it's going to be in. It's in Norfolk for now, but may be moved. Talk about that after. Another red flag, gaslighting her into thinking that he didn't pick her up and drop her. She must have just slipped. And this is where the gaslighting really takes effect. Katie started to ask herself what she was doing to provoke him. This was not the first violent relationship she had been in. There it is. Not the first violent relationship she's been in. Cycle. So sad. This is now her third husband. I'm assuming it was not her second husband. I don't know if it was her first husband. It could have been some other kind of relationship. But it's not the first. Maybe it was her fault, she suggested in text to friends. Maybe there was something she did to inspire violent behavior in men. Maybe he didn't know his own strength when he was drinking. See how she's making excuses for him, blaming herself. Textbook. After the tumble on the floor, she could barely walk, but she hesitated to report her husband to the police. By then, Tuerk's settlement with the Attorney General had made the news, and McLean worried that additional bad publicity would only prevent Tuerk from finding another job. Here we go. The cycle continues. I said they moved it? No, I didn't say they moved it. I said they're trying to move it. You talking to me, Dad? Let's see. I said, we don't know if it's going to be in Norfolk or Suffolk. Maybe you're talking to somebody else because I know you know. I know you know. I know you know what I'm talking about. She didn't want to report him to the police because she felt bad for him. She felt bad for him because he was just in the news for all of the Medicare fraud and the fraudulent billing of Mass Health. And that's been all over the news. And then he got fired from his job at St. Elizabeth's and he had to pay a $150,000 fine. And if she went to the police to report him for DV, then he would never, then he would never be able to get another job. Rationalizing, blaming herself, feeling sorry for him. The violence only continued. Later that month, Katie told police in her interview while she sat working on a school project with her youngest child, Tuerk said, "I'm the ducking king of this castle. You are only a guest," before leaning in to cut a lock of her red hair. What number are we up to now? Katie reached up to stop him, and the scissors struck her, sending a rivulet of blood down her hand. Let me, here's what we'll do. We'll put up a picture of Katie. One second. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Let me see if I can find one that does her justice. I have one that I put on the thumbnail, but it's kind of... All right, here's a nice picture. I had cut it out, so I wanted to do one that we can... There's Katie. He cut a lock of her hair. In front of the kids. Katie was growing incessantly worried and was unsure how much further her husband would go. She told the police that after one argument, she heard the electronic tones of Harry entering a key code into his gun safe, where she knew he kept 4 firearms. Another red flag. Then there was the couple's Super Bowl Sunday party. Let me just point out that nothing good happens at a Super Bowl Sunday party in Norfolk County. Remember what happened during John O'Keefe's Super Bowl party? Anyone? Though Katie greeted the guests with her usual smiles and cheer, later when Harry left the room, she told some of them that she might not be able to stick it out in her marriage for much longer. Harry overheard her. After the guests left, Katie said in her police interview, she decided to walk over to Harry and sit on his lap. Get your clicker out. But the moment of affection quickly turned dark as Harry called his son downstairs, and as his son looked on, unceremoniously pushed his wife to the floor. That was the last straw for Katie. Yep, Higgins broke the kids' PlayStation. Karen kissed Higgins. Yep. Beverly's opinion is I'm afraid that this is too often typical European male behavior. Red flag number 25, Magnolia Gypsy is keeping track. And Dewey loves Ducky, says, I can't believe the pain her children have endured. Yeah. And this is his child, that his son that he called down to witness this. IBL Blazy, this is a story out of Boston Magazine, which was published in November of 2020, but it gives Katie's version of the story in a far more eloquent way than I ever could, because none of the pleadings that we've read in this case so far tell Katie's side of the story. Oh, the Norista happening right now, David? Probably will be another unaliving in Canton. We'll see. I hope not. The very next day, this is the day after he pushes after the Super Bowl party. Katie drove a few short minutes to the Dover police station, a building painted deep red in the spirit of a rustic barn. She was disheveled. The screen of her iPhone was shattered, and she was crying. Katie told officers at the front desk that Harry had been violent and she was filing for divorce. She didn't want to press charges. She just wanted them to know in case something happened to her. Sergeant Ryan Menace. Shout out to Sergeant Ryan Menace. Menice. Menice. Dover PD. This is a guy who should get a promotion if he hasn't already. Sergeant Ryan Menace took one look at her and told Katie they should have a talk. The heavyset man with kind eyes offered Katie a sea green swivel chair in the conference room at the back of the station. Katie was reluctant at first, but as Menace pulled out a notepad, she walked him through the horrors of the past few months. When Katie mentioned the gun safe and the strangulation, Menace suspected he had a serious domestic abuse case on his hands. The term battered woman often conjures images of black eyes and bruises, yet strangulation or choking, particularly in the way that Katie claimed Harry stopped her breath by placing his hands over her mouth and nose, may not always leave a mark. This Sergeant Menace, his spidey senses are up. He knows what's going on. He's been well trained. And he gets it. And I have to say this because we've been covering so many cases where women go into the police station and are not believed. Do you remember that cop in Ashley Benefield's case who just thought she was a scotch? He's like, yeah, she was calling me all the time. She was so annoying. She kept calling me like I was going to do anything about it. It's a restraining order. It's a piece of paper from North Carolina. I can't, she wanted me to enforce it. What was I going to do? What was I going to do about it? That guy's attitude was something else. If you haven't seen it, and we see this a lot. Yeah, Paul, probably unfortunately seen it before too. But how many women are afraid to go, first of all, and then when they finally do go, it's like, yeah, honey, are you sure? Are you sure you're not making it up? Sure you're not exaggerating? Sure you didn't really slip? That's great. And here, Patty Murphy says, Ryan has always been a really good human being. The fact that he's a sergeant, or at least was a sergeant with the police, does not surprise me. They're lucky to have him. See? Dover in the house. Yes, Miku, he did. He absolutely did. But tonight, we're telling Katie's story. And they reconciled. We'll get to that. May not always leave a mark. This is unfortunate because non-fatal strangulation is one of the most reliable warning signs that DV may escalate to murder. According to the work of psychologist David Adams, author of Why Do They Kill?, a study of men in Massachusetts who have slayed their intimate partners, Tuerk checked off 2 more boxes. He owned guns, and according to text messages Katie sent to her friends, she believed he was capable of killing her. Let's take a quick segue because I've never heard of this book. Let me know if you have. It was by David Adams. Why Do They Kill? Yep. Well, here it is. You can get it on Amazon for $33. Why would it be paperback? Be $33? Apparently, it's about men in Massachusetts who kill their wives or intimate partners. Anybody seen that before? Here it is. It's got like almost 5 stars, 4.1 on Goodreads. Why do they kill? Men who murder their intimate partners. I guess you can also get it on. Oh, you can get a 99-cent audiobook if anybody's interested. And there it is. Menace told Katie that she should think about filing for a restraining order immediately and that police needed to seize Harry's guns. Katie just wanted the problem to stop, but Menace kept urging her. You have kids, he told her. You don't want to end up dead. Mentioning the children was enough. Katie agreed to do it. Climbing into her Jeep, she followed the sergeant to Dedham District Court since she couldn't see her GPS instructions through her broken phone screen. Menace told Katie to come back to the police station when she was through, at which time the officers would enforce the order. He drove her. He didn't drive her there, but he took her, had her follow him. He drove, he followed, he showed her the way to Dedham District Court. How to go get that 209A order. Oh, there are trolls in this case. Wow. Guess there are. J2K1980. Do you know Harry? Are you Harry's friend? Are you Harry? Is Harry in prison or jail right now, having access to YouTube? J2K1980. Katie was in fact sleeping around on the DR. She was a gold digger. Karma. Guess there are really trolls out there in cases even such as this, such as that one. Congratulations. You got the 5 seconds of fame you were looking for. Well done to you. Well done to you. Menace had just returned to the station to start the paperwork detailing Katie's allegations when he says a tall, well-built man walked through the door. It was Harry. He said he had come by because he was worried his wife was going to make false accusations against him. In his interview with Menace, Tuerk said Katie was the jealous and controlling one, not him. He had never been violent. He was the one who was leaving her. Menace took notes and Harry left. Okay, so remember in the statement of the case that we read from the defense side, I forget what Harry said, but did he say something like, he just happened to be in town and saw her car at the police station. He happened to be eating pizza. That's what it was. He was the Dover pizza, right? And I was like, oh, has anybody ever been to Dover Pizza? Does Dover have good pizza? Nobody has better pizza than New York. He just happened to be at Dover Pizza and he saw his Jeep that she was driving because I guess he didn't let her use the G-Wagon that day because he was mad at her. So he was withholding the G-Wagon. So he happened to be at Dover Pizza, saw her car at the police station and was like, I wonder what she was doing there. So he goes in there as if he wasn't tracking her. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Oh, sweetie, no, karma wasn't at play here, but I'm sure she's taken a note of that comment, buddy. Yeah. SR says, I'm so confused as to how somebody can possibly equate murder to cheating on their partner, if that's even true. FFS, for duck's sake. Right. Yeah, that makes it justifiable. Dewey Loves Duckies is here. Thanks for the 10. Says, one of the greatest gifts I ever received was a mentor friend confiding after her divorce. I thought I could fix him, but I learned I can't. It's not my job and it's not my fault. That is amazing. Sometimes that lesson has to be learned the hard way. Thank you, Dewey Loves Duckies, for your super chat. And Joseph Kane for being here as always and for gifting 5 memberships. You're so kind and generous. And to the 5 people who were randomly gifted, hope it's not the karma guy. Welcome. I think you're going to like it here. Thought this would be relatively uneventful tonight with regard to trolling, but you just never know what's going to set people off, right? Maybe that person who put that comment up has been hurt before by a woman who only wanted him for his money, and therefore, hurt people hurt people. That's what they say. Thank you, Joseph. You're so kind and generous, as always. Wild. It's just wild. Meanwhile, a judge signed off on Katie's abuse prevention order, but instead of returning to the Dover police station, as Menace had instructed her, Katie drove back to 29 Valley Road to show Tuerk the order herself. This was not part of the plan. When Tuerk refused to leave the house, Katie called Menace in a panic. He won't leave, she told him. Get out of the house now, Menace told her. Katie quickly did, as he said, while Menace and his fellow officers scrambled into their squad cars and raced over to Valley Road. Tuerk met them in the driveway, bending over and putting his hands on his knees like he was trying to catch his breath. Do you have to do this? He asked. He was just trying to provide a nice home for Katie and her children, and now he had to leave? He sure did, the officers told him before accompanying him to his gun safe so he could turn over his weapons. And that, my friends, is what you call excellent police work. Dover PD running right over there and getting the guns away from him, because perhaps the fact that he didn't have the guns, he still allegedly wound up strangling his wife to death, but who knew? I mean, I suppose it couldn't have ended any worse. I mean, he still wound up taking her life and confessed to it, so I don't even have to say allegedly at this point. But, because of Proctor and Bukhenik's involvement, who knows what could happen? And the Goodmans, hi, the Goodmans are here. I love when Mr. G can track me on the right account. Do you guys track each other? Is that a common thing that people do? I don't know. You tell me. Get it, Dover. That's right, Leisha. Get it, Dover. Come on, we need to. Oh my gosh, we only have 500 likes and there's over 1,000 people watching. Come on, we can totally do better than that. I know we can. I'll turn off the air conditioning or the fan. Yeah, we could do better. We can. You guys can totally do better. Just smash the like button. We'll take a second. We'll take a second and let you do that. We can look at more of Katie's Instagram while we do that. It's still up. There's Katie and Harry in Happier Times. This was from September of 2018. I mean, he's pretty jacked. She's 5'8", they said. He's like 6'3". He's monitoring her weight. Reminds me of the Blake Lively saga. Oh, I don't want to show her kids. Hold on. Here they are with their sombreros. This was from May of 2019. Thank you, Lady Zelda, for gifting a membership. You're so sweet. Thank you so much. Under the watchful eye of the officers, Tuerk collected his belongings and left the premises. Katie breathed a sigh of relief, but even from afar, Harry found ways to torment her. Katie's neighbors say he canceled the bottled water service and had the company pick up all of the unused water that had already been paid for. Who's keeping count? Court documents show that he also attempted to seize the Jeep. At that point, the only car to which Katie had access, right? Because he made her sell her minivan, remember? It wasn't until she reported to the police that Harry used the Nest thermostat to turn the heat down, making the house unbearably cold, that he violated the terms of the abuse prevention order and was arrested. Remember in Harry's papers that he recently filed, or that he filed, to try and suppress, I don't know, it was one of the motions that we went over. His version of that story is that the Nest thermostat only controlled the master bedroom. So there were other places in the house that she could have gone to. And also, I think he said he didn't do it. Still, this infraction plus assault charges filed against Tuerk after Katie reported him to the police in February were of little comfort to Katie, who worried that Tuerk might retaliate. According to her police interview, Katie said he once told her about a patient who offered to have one of his ex-wives killed. There's another red flag. A little story, sprinkles a little story in there just to, make you think before you ever try and do anything to me. I got a guy. Patient of mine, he joked that he could, if I ever needed somebody to, take care of something, like have one of my ex-wives killed, he's the guy. He could do it. They laughed about it at the time, but it wasn't so funny anymore. After Harry was released on bail, she told her clients the garage door would open at strange hours. And Katie wondered if it was Harry driving by with the garage remote. Anyone? Of course he didn't do it. She also told her neighbors that she sensed she was being followed. He was probably still tracking her. Katie was left with the disturbing realization that she may have gotten rid of Tuerk, but she was not rid of the fear that he could harm her. This brings me back also to Ashley Benefield. To the people who hated Ashley so much and didn't believe a thing she said on the stand, who said, well, he didn't even live in Florida. What do you mean she was afraid? He didn't even live in Florida. He lived in South Carolina, North Carolina, wherever the hell he lived. It would be ridiculous for her to be afraid when he lived so far away. They weren't even living in the same house. Why would she be afraid of him that day? Distance does not in any way, shape, or form have anything to do with anyone's level of fear of a person. In addition to, why is it that when rapists, let's just say, or any people convicted of assault are being released from prison, that their victims are notified? Because it doesn't matter how much time passes or how long they were in jail, they're still in danger. Right? Am I right? Oh, thanks, Kel. Thanks for being here for 15 months and for also being an amazing moderator for 15 months. Thank you. And May, thank you for gifting a membership. So kind and generous. And Beverly says, in hindsight, it is so easy to see red flags. Yeah, I know. That's why we're pointing them out, so that maybe we can help other people try and see them. It's hard to see them also when you're in the situation, right? Of course. Thanks for tuning in from Canada. Beverly, appreciate you. Somebody said something about canceling the, I'll allow it. Stephanie says it's not normal to track your spouse. I know, I track my kids. Karma took the ferry to Block Island today. Hi, little cupcake. Yeah, my kids track me too. Magenta points out the obvious. People can't be fixed. They only change if they choose for themselves. I know, it's so true. Don't turn off the heat. I know. I track my kids. My kids track me, but I mean, I think it's another, I don't know. Maybe it's a safety thing. I don't know. I'm not shading anybody who does it. I'm just pointing out that it is one of the examples of coercive control that I see in this relationship, you know? Women are crucified for going to the police repeatedly and simultaneously crucified for not going to the police enough. I know. It's a tough position to be in, SR. It is a tough position. Yeah. Paul says we share locations with each other by consent and agreement. And you know what? When you are in a relationship where people trust each other, that's a great thing. And I think it should absolutely be a fine thing to do. He obviously didn't trust her. They had trust issues because we went over some of this when we went over the defendant statement of the case. How they kept, grabbing each other's phones, looking through the text messages and things like that. And that is kind of different, right? But when you're in an excellent relationship and you trust each other, that's a safety issue. On a Thursday afternoon in late February, Katie walked across Valley Road in her bathrobe and fuzzy moccasin slippers and knocked on the door of Rick and Nancy's house. She was shaking. I don't know how to say this, Katie began. Nancy sat her down on the sofa and Katie told them everything. She was like a slave, Nancy thought to herself, cleaning all day long. Are you frightened for your life? Nancy asked. Yes, Katie told her. Please, Katie, don't live here. Can't you move away? Nancy begged. Katie said she didn't want to uproot her children again. She desperately wanted them to finish school in Dover. She just wanted Rick and Nancy to keep an eye out and call the police if they ever saw Harry approach the house. Around that time, when Katie was chatting with a client on the phone after giving her a psychic reading, she mentioned the turn of events in her relationship with Harry and the secrets she'd discovered. Tuerk's claim he was an alternate for East Germany's 1980 decathlon team, which was repeated in the St. Elizabeth Medical Center ad, was not right, she told the client. So I don't know, can't verify this, but it seems that he may have lied about being an alternate in the 1980 decathlon team for East Germany. And then it says in parentheses, Siegfried Stark and Stefan Grummet, two of three members of the actual 1980 decathlon team for East Germany, said they do not remember him. Tuerk. It's so weird to be able to see things so clearly in other people's lives all the time, Katie said. And then in my own life, I'm like, I don't know. And isn't that so true? Isn't it so true? And you can see red flags in other people's relationships and you just can't see them in your own. In the months that followed, Katie managed to find a modicum of peace while quarantining with her kids. I found such a deep gratitude for my children. It's amazing, she wrote on Facebook. This has been one of the most beautiful, cleansing, healing times of my life. Seeing my children laugh, dance, learn, and play together every day, sometimes argue, but rare, takes me back to the early days, staying at home with them and just enjoying who they are. I have had some of the deepest conversations with my teenagers, and I laughed until I'm in tears. On Easter weekend, the house finches began to build a nest out of pieces of hay collected from the decorative stack McLean kept on the front lawn. She decided to watch the birds with her children as a school project. We're so excited to watch the eggs hatch, grow, and take flight, she wrote, just like me watching these three. As they watched the birds create their nest, Katie and the children's time on Valley Road seemed to be coming to an end. In probate court, a judge had ruled that Harry could put the house on the market and that she and the children could be forced to leave as early as July. It didn't matter that Katie had put most of her savings into renovating the basement, the new pool, and the gazebo with a fireplace and flat screen TV. Didn't matter that when the shutdown came, Katie could no longer see clients there. The house is being listed soon, sadly. The girls just want to finish high school here. They were almost done. It's sad to leave friends, sports, church, and school, Katie wrote to Nancy and Rick in a text message. In early May, Rick was checking his mailbox when he bumped into Katie at the end of the driveway. She offered some surprising news. She and Harry were going to be getting back together. Okay, so now this is May. Oh, thanks, Summer Love Romero says, I love these Sunday lives. Something to do for people who aren't watching football, or maybe you're watching football on your other device. She did. She was half owner. She was half owner by then. You're right, Leisha. Harry says, if the government of East Germany put him on as an Olympic alternate, he was likely from an elite family. That's interesting. Here we are, Sunday fun day, just like Sarah Boone vibes. Sunday fun day. So this is early May. She explained that Harry was receiving intensive therapy and was having a breakthrough. She was excited that her children would be able to finish their education in Dover. On May 4th of 2020, Katie, in her neat, loopy handwriting, requested that the abuse prevention order against her husband be removed. I feel safe with him and trust his intentions to reconcile our family and marriage, she wrote in documents filed in court. Hold on one second, because I think I found that document. It's somewhere. I got lost in the rabbit hole of probate court documents because those are easier to get than the criminal documents. Boy, there's a lot of stuff in there. This decision is not uncommon. According to Emma Sarang-Szyminski, policy director at Jane Doe, Inc., an organization that works on domestic violence issues, it takes a victim an average of 7 attempts to leave an abusive domestic partner for good. A lot of you know that statistic. A lot of you don't. So when people are always saying, why didn't she leave? Why did she stay? Why didn't she leave? It takes an average of 7 times for a victim to leave their abuser. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Oh, look at that. JB3 doing both, multitasking. Got the game on, editing to content and watching, listening. Editing what kind of content? What kind of content do you do? Watching, listening to your awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It sounds like she was trying. She was trying. She was trying for the children. She was trying for the children. This is her 3rd marriage. It was his 3rd marriage too. She thought 3rd time would be a charm. Not a charm. Nothing charming about this at all. She was trying. According to the statistics, it takes a victim an average of 7 attempts to leave an abusive domestic partner for good. Sarang-Szyminski says there are a myriad reasons why survivors might elect to resolve the issue outside of court, including the fear of retaliation, financial and societal pressures, and the fact that a person who causes harm in this way is very skilled at capitalizing on all of the fears that a survivor might have. Katie's request was successful, and the judge agreed to drop the abuse prevention order. The judge would not dismiss the criminal charges, though, and Harry's bail conditions still required that he stay out of 29 Valley Road until the case was resolved. Harry apparently was not concerned about that. On the evening of May 14th of 2020, he went home. I mean, I don't know how much snow we have, but it sounds like there's a big snowplow coming down the road. Not Lucky Lochran, though. Hello, Sarah. You mentioned a post-nuptial agreement. Can you explain how that works? If she put money into the house prior to the agreement, would she have been allotted that money after? Well, it depends on the terms of the post-nup. Under the terms of their post-nup, which we talked about, I think it was during the last one of the 2 streams that we did. She wanted and got half the house and also $200,000 in an account in case she ever had to hire a divorce attorney in the future. And there were some other provisions in there that some of you can remind me of that I may not remember right exactly now. But yeah, after a divorce, she was entitled to half the house. So I don't know about the repairs and the improvements that she did, but she was entitled to half the value of the house. And also, their agreement was that they were tenants in common on the house, which meant that if one of them died, the rest of the house would revert to the other, which in my opinion is more of a motive for Harry, who had apparently buyer's remorse after signing that agreement and decided that he wanted to, as Kathy Gossip Rumor and Innuendo would say, unfortunately unalive his wife and send her to the endless heaven buffet. Hello, Kathy. Kathy makes me laugh in the morning when I really need a laugh. All right. So on May 14th of 2020, Harry went home. On the morning following Tuerk's homecoming meal, when the children couldn't find their mom, they called their father in Waltham. As he drove to Dover to check on them, he was getting worried calls from Katie's friends who had gotten wind of the weird text that Harry had sent. When the children's father arrived at the house and Katie still had not come home, he called the police. According to police affidavits, officers went to the residence inn in Dedham across from Legacy Place, where Tuerk had been renting a room off and on since the separation. Let me just break for a second to say Legacy Place, isn't that where one of the standouts was today for Karen Reed? Yeah? Akasha knows what I'm talking about. Akasha says that I love the Endless Heaven buffet. Kathy is the best. For those of you who don't know who Kathy is, later on or right now, as long as you don't leave us, Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo is the name of Kathy's channel. We met during the Brian Camp trial. She has become one of my besties. Love her so much. Love her content. Go subscribe. Tell her I sent you. She gained thousands of followers after she came on the show or talked about her or something. And I was so happy for her because she had planned like a 10,000 member stream. And by the time she had it, a couple days later, she was up to like 14,000. And it could not happen to a nicer person. I love creators who support other creators and smaller channels. And I love it. Love, 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 love it. And I love her. And she will love you too. Evening all. Hi, Anne. Says, wish my country could stay out of the news for a hot minute. Are we talking about Germany? Oh, sorry. Sorry, girl. Stardazers and choosing a cozy late stream after work. So Legacy Place, right? That's where you guys had to stand out today? I haven't watched any of the coverage on it because I've been working on this all day, but I'm going to go watch it later. So there was like a worldwide Karen Reed standout today. Those of you who went, thank you so much for going. I think there was even one in Cancun when I looked to the list of where they were all going to be. So that's amazing. Yeah, Magenta, that's what she says. Do not fail your shutting up classes, folks. And Iceman says she's up to 15,000 now. Love that. Love that. I love it. It's Waltham, Mr. G. Waltham. Yes, Legacy Place was a standout. Yes, there was one in Cancun. Wow, some people had one in Florida. There was one in Indiana. Kathy's channel is called Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo. And she does true crime in a very funny way. She's like, I don't know the facts. Don't come to me for the facts. Come to me for the gossip, rumor, and innuendo and the tea. Kathy, I'm so sorry to hear this. Says I was also in a very bad place, very bad abused place. They make you feel you can't make it without them, which is not true. So much peace once we are out of there. Congratulations on getting out. TV3 says I saw free Karen Reed sticker on a truck near Dallas last week. That's awesome. Okay, back to Katie for a minute. Pulling into the parking lot, they noticed that both Tuerk's G-Wagon and Katie's Jeep were parked outside. It looked like the couple was there together. The officers knocked on the door of the room registered to Tuerk and called out his name according to the police affidavit. No response. Increasingly concerned, they asked a hotel clerk to open the door with an electronic key. Some of these details are different from some of the details that we found out by reading court documents, so just bear with that for a second. Inside, they found a disturbing sight. The doctor bleeding on the white hotel sheets. There was a cut on his head, a self-inflicted laceration on his left wrist, and scratches on his legs. But there was no sign of Katie. Tuerk, who appeared to be unconscious, was rushed to Norwood Hospital. He would not wake up for more than 24 hours. And that I think is accurate because he said that he was like literally in a coma. There was also a loaded syringe under the mattress, a half a bottle of Glenlivet scotch next to the bed, and a bunch of pills, right? Meanwhile, the search for Katie kicked into high gear. State troopers assigned to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office entered the home at 29 Valley Road and forced open the locked bedroom door to find the floor covered in broken glass. Well, they didn't see it the first time, but they did see it the second time. Go back and watch the last stream we did for more information on that, because all of that was in the motion to suppress the fruits of the poisonous tree that came from the search of the house and the hotel room. And that motion was not successful, so all this evidence is going to come in. Katie's purse and cell phone were inside. Sergeant Menace, who silently hoped she had fled to her friend's house in a hurry, said he contacted just about everyone she would have been comfortable asking for help. No one had heard from her. Oh my God, can you imagine? Sergeant Menace is going to have to live with this forever. And he tried to help her, and then, despite his best efforts, she winds up dead. The scratches on Tuerk's legs looked a lot like he could have gotten them from bushwhacking. So for the next day and night, officers and their search dogs combed the 595 acres of Noannet Woodlands Reservation, which was less than 2 blocks from McLean and Tuerk's house. They came up empty. This is how you do an investigation, folks. This is how it's done. And this is how we know that the MSP troopers assigned to the Norfolk County DA's office know how to do an investigation. This was in May of 2020. So in January 29th of 2022, when a fellow brother in blue was found murdered on the lawn of another Boston cop, they knew how to do the investigation, just didn't want to do it. Either that or they want you to think Canton PD is incompetent. You know who's not? Dover PD. Finally, in the late afternoon on Saturday, Harry stirred his massive frame and opened his pale blue eyes to find himself handcuffed to a medical bed surrounded by a gaggle of doctors, nurses, and detectives who wanted to know what he had done with his wife. According to the Commonwealth statement of the case, Tuerk initially said he had only spotty recollections of Thursday night and did not know why he was in the hospital, but eventually conceded that his memory was starting to come back to him. The state trooper recorded the conversation while Tuerk waived his Miranda rights and confessed. Well, that was another motion. They wanted his confession thrown out because they say that he didn't knowingly waive his Miranda rights because he was on drugs and he just came out of a coma and he was in the hospital conference room and he, wasn't really in custody, but was he really in custody? And so that motion was also denied by none other than, I believe, Judge Beverly Cannone. We went over that last time. The takeaway from this is that they recorded his conversation and his confession, which, begs the question, why, when police officers it was Proctor and Bukhenik went to Dighton. I think he was with Bukhenik, right? When they went to Dighton to talk to Karen and to seize the car and the phone, why they didn't record Karen's statement? Because, they could just write down all these things that allegedly Karen said, but no recording of it. No recording of any. Oh, joint tenancy. All right, I got it backwards. I can't remember now which one they had. Which one did they have? Tenants in common, they each own 50%, right? And then when one person dies, it goes to their heirs and the other person has their share. Joint tenancy is the survivor gets it all by the death of the other. And I can't remember now which one they had. I think the one that they had provided for if one of them died, the other one got the whole thing. Which apparently gives them both murder, both motive to want to kill the other. That's what the trolls in here will claim. So whichever one they had the other one. Joint tenancy. I don't know. I have to go back. With rights, I don't know. I can't remember. I can't remember now. I'm sorry. I got it wrong. I'm sorry. I got it wrong. We got it right last time, but my brain is mush. He told the officers that when he and Katie went up to the bedroom after board games with the kids, they were drinking and arguing over text messages. She threw a glass at his head and he wrapped his hands around her neck and strangled her. It wasn't until she died in his arms, he said, that the doctor realized he had gone too far. Where was the body? Asked the troopers. Tuerk said he couldn't remember. Her family needs closure, they said. Where is she? Harry told the officers about the vacant lot near his home, next to a newly constructed mansion that had not yet sold. Half a dozen troopers and Dover police officers descended upon the address that Harry provided. It was dark when the officers began climbing over trunks of fallen trees to search for Katie. A trooper scanned his flashlight over the clearing, finding a dark, murky pond, and spotted something white roughly 15 feet from shore. They even had measurements. It was Katie. She was lying face down, wearing only her yoga pants, which had been weighted down by rocks. A dive team untangled her from a bed of water lilies, and the officers carried her body out of the woods in a tarp. Neighbors were shaken as details about McLean's death surfaced in the news. According to the medical examiner's report, the autopsy revealed Katie had a fractured neck bone. I'm going to point out it's the hyoid bone, which we've talked about several times. Bleeding in both eyes, bruises on her neck and within the neck muscle, and bruising on her scalp and brain. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation and the manner, homicide. Compare and contrast with the death certificate in Sandra Birchmore, who also had a fractured hyoid bone, which they determined to be suicide. And now Matthew Farwell is in Club Fed, or federal prison, awaiting trial for murder of Sandra Birchmore, who was a 23-year-old woman pregnant with his baby. He was a married, at the time, Stoughton police officer who had taken Sandra Birchmore's virginity at 15 years of age while she was a member of the Police Explorers program. Compare that also with the death certificate of police officer John O'Keefe, whose manner of death was determined to be undetermined, despite Michael Proctor and Yuri Bukhenik's best efforts to get the medical examiner to change the manner of death to homicide. It remains to this day undetermined. No, you can't make this up. Katie's cremated remains were buried in a private ceremony restricted to immediate family because of the pandemic. Meanwhile, her death became yet another depressing pandemic era statistic. Listen to this. Listen up. Katie was one of 6 women in Massachusetts killed by their domestic partners since the onset of COVID-19, according to Jane Doe, Inc. All right, so Katie was killed in May of 2020. She was one of 6 women in Massachusetts killed since the onset of COVID. So remember that the lockdown didn't really start until March, right? Mid-March. Are they saying that it was, because this article was only written in November of 2020. Are they saying that 6 were killed by November of 2020, or 6 were killed by the time Katie was killed in May? I mean, that's insane. And then it says, of those 6 homicides, half were murder-suicides, cases in which the perpetrator took his own life as well. Wasn't there a whole I think there was a whole family. There was a father who killed his wife and a couple of kids. I forget where that was. You guys remember where that was? Was it like Cohasset or somewhere like that? I don't remember. So of those 6 homicides, half were murder-suicides, cases in which the perpetrator took his own life as well, so 3. The other half were attempted murder-suicides, incidents in which the alleged perpetrators apparently attempt to take their own lives, as Harry Tuerk is accused of doing. Was that one also in Dover? It was in Dover also? I mean, that's insane, you guys. What's in the water in Massachusetts? No wonder she's drinking bottled water. And then there are people out there who are like, oh, really? Did she need to drink bottled water? Well, who cares if he canceled the water? They need to drink bottled. She's so spoiled. She needs to drink bottled water. Give me a break. Kasha says, right before St. Patrick's Day 2020, I know because we were at the bar the night before, and I was like, well, we were probably screwed. Yeah, that's when it happened. I think it happened a little earlier here. So if you're saying March 16th, here it happened, I think even earlier, like March 13th, 14th, around there in New York. Thank you, Dewey, who says, broken hyoid, cameras weren't working, and guards fell asleep are the reasons I do not believe Epstein took his own life. It's also the reason I do not believe that Shannon Gilbert, her death was accidental. She also had a fractured hyoid bone. 2 were in Dover. Shannon Gilbert is one of the Gilgo victims, who they say to this day, they're still calling an accidental death. Hi, Scott. ELA says, if you live in Massachusetts, you don't want to drink the water. Water in Massachusetts is nasty. A lot of people have well water. I get sick if I drink it. See? Angelina Marie, she knows. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Rakesh Kamal in Dover. I'm going to write that down. Rakesh Kamal in Dover killed his wife and daughter. All right. Horrific. Yeah. We're way too involved when we can make jokes about water that even refer back to MSP. So true. So true. While shelters and hotlines in Massachusetts are reporting a decrease in calls from DV victims, experts believe that the decline is not the result of a decrease in assaults, but rather because victims are unable to get away or even find enough privacy to call for help. Remember, we also looked at a motion in this case to exclude the word popcorn because popcorn was the word that Katie would text her friends if she was in trouble. I don't know that that motion's been decided yet. That's one of the motions in the lemonade, as we call them. A new report from the radiology department at Brigham and Women's, for instance, found a nearly twofold increase in cases of severe injury among abuse survivors who seek medical services. Yeah, right. Exactly. Once you go to the hospital and you come home, then you're really in trouble. As Sarang Saminsky says, a strong social network is one of the most crucial forms of support for survivors in distress, and COVID-19 is isolating survivors. Yeah, remember this article was from November of 2020. This was the first official homicide in Dover in recent years, yet the abuse that preceded it is not uncommon. In fact, Sergeant Menace says he has another recent domestic violence case involving strangulation, albeit non-fatal. Everybody's like, it's Dover. Nothing happens in Dover, he says. Well, stuff happens in Dover, he said. We're going to talk about that case after this because that's another doctor in Dover in January of 2020. On May 18th, Tuerk faced a judge over video for a virtual arraignment wearing an orange jumpsuit with a face mask around his chin. Despite his hospital bed confession, he pleaded not guilty and was ordered held without bail at the Norfolk County Jail, where he still sits today. Tuerk's attorney, Kevin Reddington, declined to comment on any allegations against Tuerk with regard to Katie's death or their relationship prior to it. He would only say that Katie took out the restraining order so she could use it as leverage to get Harry to put her name on the deed. He said he will seek an acquittal for Tuerk when the case goes to trial. Well, remember, this is going all the way back to 2020, this article, and he's recently lost the motion to keep out the confession. So good luck with an acquittal, I guess. But yeah, I mean, you got to represent your client. The house at 29 Valley Road has stood empty since the morning McLean's children discovered she was missing. The neighbors have chipped in for landscaping expenses in an attempt to keep up appearances on the leafy Dover street, but no one is watering the grass and it has turned brown and brittle. The backyard is overgrown with thistles. In late summer, all that remained of the nest of house finches that became McLean's science project was with her children. And her omen of good fortune was a streak of dried bird droppings. Let me read that sentence again because it's the last sentence of the article. In late summer, all that remained of the nest of house finches that became Katie's science project with her children and her omen of good fortune was a streak of dried bird droppings across the front door. And that is the article from Boston Magazine. What I found chilling about Katie's Instagram was her final post, which is here. Her final post, February 2nd of 2020. There's going to be very painful moments in your life that will change your entire world in a matter of minutes. These moments will change you. Let them make you stronger, smarter, and kinder. But don't you go and become someone that you're not. Cry, scream if you have to. Then you straighten out that crown and keep it moving. And that, February 2nd, 2020, that was the night of the Super Bowl party. That was the night she sat on Harry's lap and he called his son down, pushed her on the floor. And the next day was the day that she went to Dover PD and Sergeant Menace took her to district court to get the 209A order. She didn't post anymore after that. So sad, isn't it? So sad. I'm just so sad. Hi, Shari. Where have you been? I've been around. I've been here. I feel like I haven't seen you forever. I'm here. I'm here. Here I am. I did a bunch of shows on the California fires, how we could help. I probably had a very poor decision in doing some shows about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively because, well, let me tell you, you thought the trolls were bad and Karen Reed? Trolls are 100 times worse in that case, 100 times worse. Hi, Olivia. Hi, Olivia. I'm so sad you didn't get here sooner, but I'm so glad that you're here now. That's okay. You guys are here now. You can go back and rewind later. We've only been here for an hour and 40 minutes. We read an entire Boston Magazine article telling the story of Katie from Katie's side. And I've also heard from a number of friends of Katie's who have told me wonderful things about her, how she's a healer and how she was so amazing and that all she wanted to do was love and be loved. Here's the other case that I wanted to tell you about, because a lot of you who live in Dover might not even know about this. A lot of you who live in Massachusetts might not know about this either. But there was another doctor, a radiologist. If I can find my notes here. A doctor from Dover. His name was Dr. Conrad Mortelli, Mortele, was indicted in January 2020 on 13 counts, including assault and battery, stalking, strangulation, and witness intimidation. At the 5-month anniversary of his jailing, he asked for a release because of the COVID-19 pandemic. There's not a lot about this story out there. Can't find it. There's one Boston Herald article, which is behind a paywall. And then there's this article that I found. Tell me if you guys have even heard about this case. This is in something called Health Imaging Magazine. And this was from June of 2020. And it's entitled Jailed Radiologist Charged with Rape and Battery Cites COVID-19 for a Release Request. It reads as follows. A former Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center radiologist is in custody and has been charged with raping, choking, and threatening to kill his girlfriend, according to a June 15th report from the Boston Herald, June 25th. And here's his name. This is how you spell it. Conrad Mortelli, Konraad of Dover, MD of Dover, Massachusetts, was indicted earlier this month, and that was in January, on 13 counts, including assault and battery, stalking, strangulation, and witness intimidation. He's been in jail for the past 5 months, but is now asking to be released due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In a dangerousness hearing in Wednesday, that was in June of 2020, Aaron Murphy, Assistant District Attorney, said Mortelli has a child in Canada and ties to his home country in Belgium. Murphy also said he has threatened to flee the country. Mortelli's attorney, Karen Goldenberg, told a judge that her client is successfully parenting with a former partner and that his hypertension puts him at a higher risk of contracting the coronavirus. Never heard of this one either, huh? Beth Israel Deaconess spokeswoman confirmed that with the Boston Herald that Mortelli was placed on leave after his January arrest, and the health system terminated him quickly after. He also voluntarily signed an agreement in February not to practice medicine, the news outlet reports. And there's a Boston Herald story, but sadly, when you click on it, it's behind a paywall, and I don't have the Boston Herald, so I don't know if any of you do. Dover doctor charged with, I don't know. I can't even read it because it's just $3 for 1 year. I don't even want to subscribe to anything else. I have too many subscriptions. But somebody said to me that he was forced to go back to his own country. So I don't really know. I don't really know what happened with him. But they say nothing happens in Dover. It happens in Dover. They just want you to know about it. Oh, look at this. Jen says, yes, I worked with him. He was off. So Jen T, what happened to him? I've heard from people who worked with Harry Tuerk. I've heard from many friends of Katie. Moon Goddess says, I believe we just indicted another doctor a couple of days ago. 2018, he was removed. I don't know. I fell into that rabbit hole too. I found the document where he signed over voluntarily giving up his medical license. But when I look like in the court docket, it's hard to figure out like whatever happened to him or where he went. So I found that interesting. Things happen in Dover. They just don't want you to know about it in Dover. So there's that. Let's take a quick look, shall we, about the motion to change venue, because that was just filed on Friday. So now we're catching up a little bit. With current events in the Tuerk case and whether or not, tell me, do you think Harry Tuerk should be tried in Norfolk County? And that the people of Dover should have a chance to be on the jury? Or do you think they should move his venue? I want to know what you guys think who live there. Kathy's like, not going there. Not going there. All right, where did I hide that motion? Is it here? Let's see. Yes, here it is. Interestingly enough, he does not bring up the Karen Reed case at all when he asks for his change of venue. I thought that was going to be his reason. We need to get away from the Karen Reed case because of all the supporters that are going to be outside the courtroom, because they're going to be so distracting to us that therefore we have to move this case to a different county. Moon Goddess says, I think they probably will move his venue. Well, Lisa says, no, he should be tried in Norfolk County. Let's see. Stay in Norfolk. Harry Potter's beard and Hank Brennan is weird. Says unfair advantage to him if they move it, surely. I feel like he should stay. They can stay and have Bev, and then Karen Reed can get a new judge. That's a great idea, little cupcake. That is a great idea. I'll allow it. Olivia says Dover is also where that select board member was charged with witness intimidation after going to the police department to try to get the cops to drop his stolen firearms charge. Then Marcy drops the charges. I remember that. I don't remember what his name was, but that's crazy. John Little, no relation, says, would be funny if his name was Ben from Dover. Oh, we got to keep laughing, you guys. We got to keep laughing. We're just going to cry. Sam says, no way. He won't get a change of venue. That is a great idea, little cupcake. Everybody likes it. Everybody likes it. All right, let's take a look at his motion. And this is in the Commonwealth versus Ingolf Tuerk. This is the defendant's motion for a change of venue. Look, Cupcake's just dreaming. Okay. Now comes the defendant, Ingolf Tuerk, in the above numbered indictment and moves this court pursuant to the application of Rule 37B of the Massachusetts Rules of Criminal Procedure for an order changing the venue of the jurisdiction in which this case shall be tried to Suffolk County, preferably courtroom 817. Okay, my Massachusetts friends. When you move for change of venue, do you move for a specific county? Number one, that's my question. And number two, for a specific courtroom? I don't know. What's so special about courtroom 817? Numerology? Jeremiah Sullivan says New England Patriots owner Bob Kraft has a house in Dover. Well, that just goes to show how wealthy Dover is, huh? Why Suffolk County? That's a stretch, says Lisa. I don't know. I think it's important that Mark Hallal, the judge who's been specially assigned to this case after replacing Judge Beverly Cannone, is coming from Suffolk County. I don't know, right? It is oddly specific. Maybe it's his lucky courtroom, says Noel. I don't know. Iceman says only in The Godfather was a specific restaurant called for, and we saw how that turned out. Iceman, have you watched the series called The Offer? I think it's on Amazon Prime or Paramount Plus. It is about the making of The Godfather. It's with Miles Teller and it is amazing. I started watching it again. I've already watched it once, but I started watching it again the other day because I love Miles Teller, and also because it's so great. If you have not watched The Offer, I'm going to highly recommend. I know you guys sometimes like my recommendations. Like I told you about Landman. I just finished Landman. That was great. It's called The Offer. It's about the making of The Godfather. Mario Puzo, Frank Sinatra's in it. It's great. It is great. Specific Courtroom. That's a new one. Totally not weird at all. Thank you, Shari, who says, you're the sane to the crazy in the YouTube world. I watched your last show about the fires, yet it still feels like forever since seeing you on screen. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Shari. Thank you for your $13 super chat. Iceman has not watched it, but he will now. See, you're going to like it. You're going to thank me later. You're going to thank me later. If you've watched it, tell us how great. Yeah, Jury Duty was another recommendation that I had for you guys from on Amazon Prime about the guy who thinks he's on jury duty, but he's really in a reality show. Amazing. Okay. Okay, in support of the within motion, the defendant notes that due to the intense and ongoing media scrutiny in this case, coupled with the salacious set of facts surrounding this first-degree murder trial, the defendant submits that his rights to due process of law and a fair trial before an unbiased jury shall be compromised if the trial is not moved out of Norfolk County. In further support of this motion, the defendant attaches an affidavit by counsel, memorandum of law, and exhibits hereto, which are incorporated herein by reference. XOXO. Kevin Reddington, Esquire, from Brockton. And this is the way that a proper motion is supposed to be made. It is also supposed to be supported by an affidavit of counsel, which here it is, because Kevin Reddington knows what he's doing. And he says, first being duly sworn, I represent the defendant, Ingolf Tuerk, in the above captioned matter. I've been aware of the nature and extent of the publicity through the mainstream media as well as YouTube, radio, and television reporting this matter. Let me tell you, there's not a hell of a lot on YouTube about the Tuerk case. Because I tried to look for it when I was doing my own investigation and I couldn't find any. So Kevin Reddington, if you're watching, hey, what's up? What's up? We're watching. We're watching. We're watching the case. Justice for Katie. Just saying. I believe that the defendant would not be receiving a fair trial from a Norfolk County jury and feel that this matter should be transferred to Suffolk County being a contiguous county where the defendant would have a fair trial consistent with his due process rights. Signed under the pains and penalties of perjury on the 17th day of January, 2025, which was 2 days ago. He is reaching. You know why? Because half of you people, half of you guys who live in Norfolk County have never heard of this case before. Not only have you never heard of this case before, but you didn't even know that Dover was in Norfolk County. So there's that. I mean, if you guys are a sampling of Norfolk County residents, not a lot of people know about this case. They just don't. They don't even know that Dover is in Norfolk County. And it's interesting because we're going to look at the attachments, of course, to the motion. But all of the articles that he cites in his exhibit, there's like 2 articles. One of them is the Boston Magazine article, which we just read, coincidentally, because I didn't know it was attached to his motion. But that was from 2020. And then I think, but we'll go through them, the next time that this case is really in the media is when the Proctor problem surfaces. So when the Proctor problem surfaces, that's when Tuerk gets back in the news only because of Proctor. See? So there's that. See, JB3 thought Dover was in Middlesex, so I learned something new today. Tommy Matters says, every time I hear pains and penalties, I think of Bev. Yes. Jen McCabe's attorney as well. Probably why. Yep. See? DC from the PNW has not heard about the Tuerk's case until now. This is interesting. Thank you. No, Chris K. Thank you for bringing this up. Says, I'm late, so you could have mentioned it already, but didn't Harry try to fire Reddington a few times? Yeah, I found some articles when I was doing my due diligence on this, where he said that he wanted to represent himself. And then I guess that fizzled out because Reddington is still his attorney. I can't find any hearings that were televised. Like, there's like nothing about this case. So look, Mr. Reddington, I appreciate your papers. I think, but there's nothing to be found about this case. Trust me, I've tried to find it. The only stuff I can find is my own stuff. And maybe recently Court TV has done a little tiny piece or two. That's about it. So yeah, he did want to represent himself at one point. I don't know why it happened that he decided that was not a good idea. But he does have Kevin Reddington back again. So I'm not really quite sure. I don't know. And here is the supporting papers, the memorandum of law in support of the motion for a change of venue. Says the indictment charging the defendant, Ingolf Tuerk, with the murder of Kathleen McLean is an electric shock running through the community of Dover, Massachusetts, in Norfolk County. The allegations of the charge are violent and intriguing, and they certainly have been portrayed in a fashion in the media so as to guarantee extensive, exploited, prejudicial publicity. Well, not to knock your case or anything, but if this case is going on at the same time as the Karen Reed case, nobody's going to be happier than Harry Tuerk, because nobody's going to give a duck about the Harry Tuerk case because it's going to be tried at the same time as the Karen Reed case. I mean, really, let's be realistic here. Let's be realistic. Court TV only has so many cameras, and they're going to be in Karen Reed's trial, not Harry's trial. So I don't know. That's my own personal opinion. But yes, I do agree that it's an electric shock running through the community of Dover. But I will say, because everyone from Dover has emailed me, which you're welcome to do, by the way, fanbase at mlittlelaw.com. But outside of Dover, not a lot of people know about it. I'm just saying, if you guys are the mirror jury, you tell me. Yeah, they call him Harry, so we're going to call him Harry too. Just like they call Proctor Chip and Bear. Yeah, Ingolf Tuerk is his government given name, but in all the papers, she referred to him as Harry. We call him Harry. It's when Harry met Katie. Play on words. In this case, it's impossible for the defendant to receive a fair trial in Norfolk County. The defendant submits that even the county of Plymouth has been so heavily saturated with opinionated coverage that this court should transfer venue for the trial of the case to Suffolk County. It's a little hyperbolic, but I don't know what goes on in Plymouth. Argument. Given the pervasiveness of modern communications and the difficulty of effacing prejudicial publicity from the minds of jurors, the trial court must take strong measures to ensure that the balance is never weighted against the accused. The theory of the law is that a juror who has formed an opinion cannot be impartial. Publicity surrounding this case has been so highly prejudicial that the defendant's right to due process of law, guaranteed to him by the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and Article 12 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights, requires that venue be changed to a county outside of Norfolk County. Yes, right, Olivia. Also, having protesters protesting how corrupt the prosecutor's office and investigators are, who are also on Tuerk's case, right, is only beneficial to Tuerk, not prejudicial. Right, great argument, great counter argument. The print and electronic media have shown no responsible concern for the defendant's constitutional guarantee of a fair trial, despite the fact that Article 12 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights and the Sixth Amendment to U.S. Constitution, applied to the states through the due process clause of the 14th Amendment, guarantee the right of a criminal defendant to a trial by an impartial jury. The failure to grant a defendant a fair hearing before an impartial jury violates even minimal standards of due process. And so, in the present case, the defendant has already been tried in the public eye. I don't know. Let me know if you think that's true. Look, Jamie, who's an attorney. I went to high school next to Dover and haven't heard of this case. I'm on the playback crew and watching from the beginning, but wanted to thank you. You're welcome. See, Jamie, my lawyer friend. Jamie, tell me, when you move for a change of venue, do you ask for a specific county, or do you let the judge pick the county? Massachusetts. And do you also request a specific courtroom, 817? And if anybody has any information on what's so special about courtroom 817, I think it's courtroom 817 in Suffolk County, please tell me. And Shari is pointing out, yeah, there's we read this motion that Olivia might not know. We read the motion. The Commonwealth has made a motion for an extensive buffer zone also in the Tuerk trial, because that's right. Point 3 referenced Dennis Sweeney dressed as a judge. His name wasn't mentioned, but we all know who he meant. Yep. The Commonwealth has moved in Tuerk for a larger buffer zone because they say the Karen Reed trial is going to be going on at the same time, and therefore they're going to be prejudiced. But now the defendant is moving to go to a different courtroom in Suffolk County. Change of venue doesn't change the judge, right? But the judge that has been reassigned to is coming from Suffolk County. So that's kind of interesting, right? Courtroom 817 is Criminal Court Division 5. Yeah, but it would be the same judge. I don't even know if it's like if you like a change of venue, sometimes they bust the jury in from another county, right? Didn't that happen in like the Chesna case? They bust a jury in Cannone's Chesna case from a different county. The jury came from a different county, but the case was still tried in Norfolk Superior, right? Lady says, ha, 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 ha. What is he talking about? What coverage of this case? I can't wait to see all these zero examples in the media that he shows in this filing. Well, one of them is the article I just read from Boston Magazine, but we'll get there. So he says that the defendant's already been tried in the public eye, and judge, you're allowed to, because judge, you're the gatekeeper, may order the transfer of a case to another county for trial if the court finds there exists in the community where the prosecution is pending so great a prejudice against the defendant that he may not be able to attain a fair and impartial trial. The court has substantial discretion in deciding whether to grant a motion for change of venue based on pretrial publicity. However, the court's discretion must be guided, if not limited, by an affirmative constitutional duty to minimize the effects of prejudicial pretrial publicity. The defendant acknowledges that the mere existence of pretrial publicity, even if it is extensive, does not constitute a foundation of fact sufficient to require a change of venue. However, showing that such publicity will deprive him of his right to a fair trial does constitute such a foundation. Well, here's what he's doing. Thanks, Mr. Reddington, for creating a scratch and sniff motion for Karen Reed's motion to change venue, because all of the things that you're pointing out have absolutely 100% happened in the Karen Reed case. Because if you want to talk about extensive pretrial publicity, you need look no further than across the hall to the Karen Reed trial. And whether or not she can receive a fair trial in Norfolk County is something that I question very much, because the jury pool could be from Canton, and they could be afraid of what's going to happen to them when people come into court that may live in Canton and rule the town of Canton, and that are highly connected in the police department and perhaps other organizations such as like the ATF, who knows, and are staring them down during closing arguments, and they could be afraid to come to a verdict that is just and fair because they have to live in Norfolk County. I don't know. It's just a thought. Well, the Commonwealth can't file a motion to change venue. They can't do that. They don't do that. They wouldn't do that. But the defense can, and that's what's going on here. But I mean, imagine the Commonwealth filing a motion. They won't do that, because they need to keep it there. They need to keep it in Norfolk County because the people that they are protecting are all very well connected in Norfolk County, including the district attorney of Norfolk County. Yes, Olivia, we think alike. This is a scratch and sniff motion for Karen Reed. Here's all the cases, everyone. You don't need to do a lot of work. It's all right here. It's all right here. The sustained, repeated, and anticipated unrelenting torrent of negative publicity about the defendant virtually guarantees that he will be generally and substantially prejudged, and that it will be practically impossible to impanel an impartial jury. Just keep inserting Karen Reed's name in your mind, and tell me whether you think this motion would be granted. I mean, Judge Cannone, would she grant it? Factors to be considered. But if she does request a change of venue, may I suggest Hampshire County, where Brian Camp was acquitted? Because I think Hampshire County jurors seem to get it. I am a big fan of Hampshire County, even though, remember we watched that trial? Poor Tom Kokanowski. It looked like he was in a school play. I mean, the curtains in the courtroom, it looked like it was on stage at a school play. Tom Kokanowski, defense attorney extraordinaire. If you need a good defense attorney, call Tom Kokanowski. I think he works out of the Cape. And he will come to Hampshire County to represent you. And he's very Mad Men in his style. And we loved every minute of it. And then he came on the show. We still love every minute of it. We still love Tom. How are you, Tom? Are you out there? Call me. He's got a cat named George Clooney who sat on his shoulders the whole time when he was on the show, and it's great. So, love Hampshire County, right? Isn't that like Amherst, college kids, student, great town? Well, if she's not driving to Western Mass, then perhaps it should be reassigned to somebody who will. There's that. Well, the girl can dream, JB3, can't she? So we're 2 hours from Dedham, it'll never happen. And you know what else? They don't really give a duck about anybody receiving a fair trial in Norfolk County, do they? I mean, do they? Do they care? Maybe they'll care about Dr. Harry Tuerk, but they don't care about Karen Reed. Tell you that. That's right, Meg. They were real and honest in Hampshire County. Let me tell you this while we're talking about Brian Camp. And I'm not going to name any names or say anything other than to tell you, after, this is recently actually, I heard from somebody reached out to me who is, or what, I guess was, because Jonathan Latender was the home invader who was killed tragically when he broke into the Brian Camp's home and tried to kill him and maybe his children and girlfriend, Brooke, and they got engaged since then, and everything seems to be going well for the Camp family. Somebody very close to and or in the family of Jonathan Latender reached out to me and said, I just want to thank you for your coverage of the Brian Camp case, because through your honest coverage of that case, there was not a lot of coverage of it. We found out kind of like what we knew to be true about Jonathan Latender. And it was an amazing communication to get, because sometimes I feel like I'm out here screaming into a closet. And it was nice to know the coverage that I provided, and Tom Kokonowski, and they said also that the interview that you did with his attorney, it was so enlightening, and I just want to thank you. And I mean, this is the family and or friends of the guy who was killed in that case, and the defendant was acquitted. And sometimes it's nice to know that even though I feel like I'm out here screaming into a closet, the things that I do and say and the cases that I cover actually do something to help people, I guess, in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. So there's that. Yeah, it was. I didn't even like really verbalize it well, because I don't really want to read it. But yeah, it was crazy. All right, when considering a change of venue, courts have to recognize 3 factors: the presence of any one of which may necessitate a change of venue to protect a defendant's constitutional right to a fair trial by a panel of impartial jurors, highly prejudicial publicity, extensive publicity even if it's accurate, and special circumstances related to the crime charge that may set community opinion against the accused. All 3 are present in this case. A, the media coverage of defendant's case has been highly prejudicial. Pretrial publicity may be so prejudicial that prejudice to a defendant's right to a fair trial may be presumed. Oh, let me put this up there for you guys, because some of you guys like Venmo, because you like to remain anonymous, and you have your questions read, but you don't want anybody to know who you are. So if you do, put your question on Venmo by using the QR code. Make sure you just put anon, please, at the beginning of your message, the beginning of your question. In the event of a presumption of prejudice, a change of venue may be mandated. The media coverage in this case is pervasive and refers to much prejudicial material, and the coverage has repeatedly detailed the prosecution's theory of the case. Well, that's not necessarily true, because I did go over on my first or second show the entire defense theory of the case, which is something like 39 pages long, and the Commonwealth's theory of the case was only like 3 pages long. So I'm out here telling your guys' story, Kevin. Whether they want to believe it or not is another issue. These stories have the potential to create a jury pool that has an extremely biased, prejudicial opinion of the defendant. Bills win 27-25. Yay! Oh, I have the hockey game on. Ranges. I can't read the score though because I don't have my glasses. Boston, Mass. 781 says, I think Reddington is getting this case mixed up with his Clancy case. Literally, no one talks about this case. I know, except for me. Except for me. Ingolf Tuerk has always been identified and portrayed in a highly inflammatory way. Whenever this case is reported on, the media uses salacious and derogatory terms referring to the defendant. In addition, in nearly every media report, at least the basic tenets of the prosecution's theory are present. He confessed. He confessed. He said, I grabbed her. You even said in your defendant statement of the case, he grabbed her, and the next thing he knew, she was dead in his arms or something. Crazy. The publicity in this case has been so overwhelmingly inflammatory and prejudicial that prejudice to the defendant's right to a fair trial must be presumed. Blah, blah, blah. They go on to talk about a lot of case law. Given the extremely prejudicial publicity surrounding this case, there's a reasonable likelihood that the jurors will not be impartial. Venue in the present case should be changed, as the media coverage in this case has provided ample basis to alert this court that there is a substantial risk that the case might be decided on extraneous grounds. The defendant annexes a sampling of the news coverage regarding this case in local media for the court's review. This does not include YouTube, television, and radio coverage. Right. Exactly, Cusco. Thank you. Thank you for the much-needed laugh. We tried portraying him as a non-murderer, but he just isn't. He just isn't. Rangers game is 4-4. Oh, thank you. Playing Montreal tonight. Thank you, Squirty Belly. Yeah, little cupcake. Exactly. You should hear what they say about Karen Reed. I think a much better argument can be made in her favor. I don't know. I mean, I know you guys love going to the standouts and stuff outside the courthouse in Norfolk County. I don't think it's the best place for this case to be tried. I don't know if they'll make a motion to change venue, but I think it would be a good idea, because I don't know if Karen Reed can receive a fair trial in Norfolk County. I just think that the jury pool has to live there. They have to live with their decisions. Right. Should be better off in any county but Norfolk. Stacy says, I have all the local Boston media apps on my phone. The only ones I get alerts on are Karen Reed, Brian Walsh, and Lindsay Clancy. No one is talking about this case. I've never heard about it until now. See? He's charged with first-degree murder. That is right. Yeah, he's charged with first-degree murder. Maybe Kevin Reddington is hoping that the jury comes in with second degree, but I mean, everything that we've read shows premeditation, and I mean, I don't know. Yeah, he did. Will LeGlaire did say that he had an exchange with Kevin Reddington when Will was in the courtroom. Kevin Reddington said something like, yeah, he said, I think Will said something like, and I don't want to even misquote it, so I don't even really want to repeat it, but he said, like, what are you here for? Are you here for the Karen Reed case? And he said, no, I'm here for some other guy. Wife was found in a pond, something like that. Right? So yes, Will did have a funny story about that. That's the issue, first versus manslaughter. Exactly. Oh yeah. KPT says, well, we heard Rick Allen confessed, but I never heard anyone in the courtroom listen to a confession from Allen's mouth. That's right. They didn't. That's right. Right. His confessions are what apparently convicted him. And they're trying to say that Karen Reed confessed also. But they don't have that on recording anywhere. Just saying. They were recording interviews in 2020, not in January 2022, because, snow. Snow. The pervasive and widespread publicity surrounding this case has rendered potential jurors partial. A massive amount of publicity, even if accurate and impartial, may still render jurors partial. And then he's going to just go on and on with a lot of case law. None of it really has much to do with this case, because as you and I both know, there hasn't been massive publicity in this case. Maybe Harry wants to think so, but it's been overshadowed by a couple of other bigger cases in the same building. He says, this prejudicial media coverage has existed from the time police first arrested the defendant. It has steadily continued, and the media will no doubt launch a full court press as the trial date approaches and throughout the duration of the trial? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think what you really should do is you should allow your case to be on trial at the same time as Karen Reed's, and nobody's going to pay attention to yours at all. Like, at all. I mean, that's just my opinion. Just my opinion. Ipsy Dixit. Indeed, nearly every time the defendant has a court appearance, news stories are generated in local newspapers and on local news broadcasts, as evidenced by the continuing media coverage. While the poisoner is constitutionally protected in plying his trade, he quotes, courts must not allow a miscarriage of justice to result because the minds of jurors or potential jurors were poisoned. And that is an opinion in Irvin versus Dowd, signed by Judge Frankfurter. Okay, you cannot make this stuff up. We're back in the twilight zone of Norfolk County, and the judge's name in this case, well, that looks like a U.S. Supreme Court case. It's Judge Frankfurter. Make me want a hot dog real bad. Anybody know? Anybody know what that's from? Name that movie quote. You make me want a hot dog real bad. First one to get it. See the first one to get it. Only fan, Akasha. You make me want a hot dog real bad. Anybody? Name that movie. You're laughing, but you don't know it. Olivia Alex, first one in with Legally Blonde. Ding, 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 ding. Somebody once asked in the comments, one of the trolls said, Mark Betterow and I, not to be confused with the parody account on Twitter. Mark Betterow and I did a show on Karen Reed, and somebody wrote in the comics, did you two and Reese Witherspoon go to the same law school, you morons? You're not even real lawyers. You're like Timu lawyers. And I wrote, Harvard, yeah, were you in our class too? Because I don't recognize your name. A change of venue is warranted when community opinion may be set against the accused simply by virtue of the crime charged. Norfolk County has been so permeated with negative publicity, identifying the defendant by name and by publicity often coupled with a photograph, that any subsequent court proceeding in a community so pervasively exposed to such a spectacle could be but a hollow formality. Well, listen, the guy had billboards. There was billboards of this guy. I don't know where the billboards were, but he was like the poster boy of St. Elizabeth's Hospital robotic surgery department. He was. Maybe he should have kept his face off of billboards if he was going to strangle his wife and throw her in a pond. I don't know. I'm just saying. I guess, because they took his guns away. Right? It's just a step to the right. Bend and snap. I love Jennifer Coolidge so much, and I'm so glad that she finally got her comeuppance and all of the awards for White Lotus, because I've loved her for a million years. She's been so highly underrated until now. She is my spirit animal. She's my spirit animal. That's right. And she only went to Harvard because she was chasing a boy, and then she kicked Harvard's whole ass. You are correct, Akasha. Thank you, Squirty Belly David Reese, for your 5. Maybe Karen should request a change of venue to Cape Cod so Bev wouldn't have to stop the trial early. Oh, that's a great idea. They could have full days of court. They could have full days, no half days, no Taco Tuesdays. Got to get out early. No half day Wednesdays. No summer Fridays. We got to avoid traffic leaving early. Great idea. Great idea. Thanks, Elijah, for tuning in from Canada for your $20 super chat. Canadian. New prosecutor is oddly appropriate with all corruption and cover-up in the Karen Reed case. Just flash back to the first officer talking about using red Solo cups and tell me the dude who defended a mob boss isn't the right choice. A lot of people feel that way, Elijah. You are not alone. You are not alone, because this entire trial, well, the first trial was in defense of the McCabes and the Alberts. So who better to prosecute the second trial, the re-persecution of Karen Reed, than an actual defense attorney who's actually represented and dealt with mob figures, perhaps. But there's no such thing as the mafia. I mean, I'm just saying, if there was such a thing as the mafia, and Brennan did represent somebody who was in the mafia or related to the Irish mafia or something such as like that, who better? Because they did not go outside of the Norfolk County DA's office to hire a special prosecutor because there was a conflict of interest. They did it because no other prosecutor in the office would touch the case. Things that make you go, You're not alone. Thank you for your super chat. You are not crazy. They're just gaslighting you. They're just gaslighting you. It happens every day. Stay off of Twitter. Stay off of Twitter. I know they call it X now. I'm calling it Twitter forever. I will always call it Twitter. Stay off of there. You will feel gaslit on the regular. The present case is a near textbook example of when a fair trial is impossible because community opinion is predetermined. I have to believe that he wrote this motion for a different case and he's just reusing it. It's like he's recycling this motion from something else because he can't really mean this. This is not a textbook example of when a fair trial is impossible because community opinion is predetermined. I don't know. Lori says she burned through Landman in a day. Thanks for your recommendation. Oh my gosh, I love John Hamm so much. I love John Hamm so much. No spoilers. But I don't know. John Hamm. Love John Hamm. Okay. Yeah, notice how the only guy they could find to agree to prosecute this case was the one who knew nothing about it first, didn't even watch the trial, right, Olivia Nile? Guess what else? Blake Lively is a horrible person because she didn't read the book. She didn't read the book before filming that movie. And Brennan didn't watch the trial. Don't get me started. Don't get me started over here. I was trying to keep this like calm tonight. This is all about Katie. It's about Katie and what a great person Katie was. And no matter what some ducking moron said on here about karma, gold digger, blah, blah, blah. See, I knew that was going to happen. Kind of. I thought maybe with a 5-minute delay, people would, refrain. They'd get 5 minutes to think about it after subscribing before leaving a stupid comment like that. I don't care what she did. She did not deserve to be murdered and thrown in a pond. Okay? Mother of 3. How about this? Divorce her. You were already in divorce proceedings. But that's the way idiots think. That's the way trolls are. And you just can't win against them. So there's that. I think this was from a different case, and he reused it, but let's keep going. Lots of case law. And he says, in this case, both the alleged crime and the surrounding circumstances are replete with shocking and repellent factors. The defendant is entitled to a change of venue to preserve his right to a fair trial, since the constitutional standards of fairness requires that a defendant have a panel of impartial jurors. Well, it's not as shocking and repellent as chopping up your wife and then putting her body into garbage bags and then distributing them in the dumpsters around town, Brian Walsh. It's not as shocking and repellent as that, I would argue. But, maybe Brian Walsh's counsel can use this motion too. And as a side note, although we have not found anything egregious so far in the Tuerk case that Michael Proctor may or may not have done to screw this case up, I will say that in Walsh case, there may be some things that Michael Proctor has touched and Guarino has touched that may prevent a fair trial in the Walsh case. So there's that. Or things that may be thrown out. Or who knows? Who knows? Because Brian Walsh's case depends on cellular forensics and Google searches. And in the Karen Reed case, they're saying, well, none of that stuff is accurate. Shield and sword, my friends, shield and sword. And then they're going to turn around and say Celebrate works like a charm. In the Brian Walsh case, works like a charm. All these Google searches, the dates and times on these are totally 100% accurate. But you know what? When Jen McCabe Google searches how to die in cold, how long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m. Nope. Celebrate's wrong. It was wrong. It's wrong. Yeah. The risk of prejudice is too great to be cured by voir dire. So even our questioning of the jurors is we cannot even fix it because of all these cases and all of these quotes and so on. Prejudice. The circumstances surrounding this case are similar to other cases when a motion for change of venue has been granted. Here's some more case law. Thomas Tulin. Why were we talking about that case? We were talking about Tulin for some reason. I don't remember why. In the Tulin case, trial counsel represented Mr. Tulin and filed a motion for change of venue. Oh, Reddington was the attorney? Oh, no. He's not referring to himself, is he? The motion was argued and the court denied the motion and the case proceeded to trial before a Nantucket jury. The jury convicted the defendant and the matter was appealed to the Supreme Judicial Court. And as is apparent in the decision, the SJC reversed the conviction based upon unfair pretrial publicity. Oh, the hospital he worked at is in Suffolk County. Oh, they want some friendlies on the jury, you think? Can I get some friendlies? Right, Olivia says, doesn't Proctor's lack of similar misconduct in this case anyway, pretty much reinforce the fact that his aberration in behavior was no mistake and was deliberate because they had to blame it on the girl? All right, it shows that he knew how to do a proper investigation, but in John O'Keefe's case, he just didn't. He just didn't, just because. Nearly every story about this case relates to the prejudicial aspects of the investigation and the allegations. Indeed, in similar situations where a criminal case has received massive publicity, Justice of the Superior Court has ordered, when requested, the case to be transferred to another county for trial. These include, and then he's got a whole lot of cases here. Commonwealth v. Alduopolis, Barnosky, Burbank, Delgado, and then a whole page full of cases where change of venue was granted. Page and a half. Conclusion. Defendant refers this court to the Commonwealth statement of the case, as well as the defendant's statement of pertinent facts, and notes that the facts of the case have been argued to this court repeatedly on various motions in lemonade, and the facts, therefore, will not be recited in the body of this motion. Therefore, please, the only remedy to ensure that he obtains a fair trial and impartial jury untouched by this highly inflammatory and prejudicial media coverage. Well, it says medial coverage. Oh, I knew I was going to find a typo. It's supposed to say media, but it says medial coverage. It's for the court to exercise its discretion and move this case to another venue. Please. XOXOXO. Kevin Reddington of Brockton. And then he attaches these articles, okay? So the first one is from August 14th of 2024. Prominent Massachusetts doctor accused of killing wife in court over new filings. And this is talking about Dr. Ingolf Tuerk's case is one of several in Norfolk County that could be affected by the fallout from revelations about Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor. So that's August of 2024. There's that article, which I'm not going to read to you, but I'll get myself out of the way and scroll through it slowly in case you want to read it. I'm sure we've already read it before, I think. And that's from August of 2024. This is still that same article. Talk to me, my friends, about Rosemary Scapicchio, because I've seen her before on some other, I don't know what I've seen her on, another show or something. She's got 3 defendants in murder cases that Proctor investigated. If anybody knows the names of those cases, can you tell me what they are? I mean, I could search her up in the thing. I probably will, but I'm just curious about that. I like her. I've seen her on TV. I think she's really funny and great. Rosemary Scapicchio. All right. So she's got 3 cases with Proctor on them. So that's one article that they attach. And there's Harry in all his surgeon scrubs glory. And this is interesting too, because I don't remember this anywhere in any of the papers that we've read. This article says investigators have said that Tuerk called 911 to report Katie missing a day after she was last seen, and that he sent a text message to a friend. I know that he sent a text message to his friends, but I didn't read anywhere in the court filings that Tuerk called 911 to report her missing. I thought it was her ex-husband, Stephen Rocco. So I don't know. That's an interesting little tidbit that I just underlined because, I thought it was important. Okay. Next article is, he wants to represent himself at the trial. So this was in May of 2024. Oh, good, because this is going to answer some of my questions. The case of a Dover doctor accused in the 2020 murder of his wife returns to court again on Monday as he seeks to get rid of his defense attorney and represent himself against the charge at trial. Urologist Dr. Ingolf Tuerk faces a felony murder charge in the death of his wife, Katie McLean, age 45, whose body was found in a pond in May 2020, weighted down with rocks in her pants, according to a police report in the case. Tuerk's trial date has been set 4 times and rescheduled. Trial is now set for November 18th. Well, the only reporting in that case was because he wanted to fire Reddington and represent himself. So I don't think that that's highly inflammatory media coverage, but that's just my opinion. Moving on. Well, they cut off a part of it. Tuerk was in Norfolk Superior on Monday afternoon for a hearing on the motion. Previous court documents revealed an abusive relationship that was spiraling out of control before McLean was found dead. McLean had been reported missing by Tuerk. Yeah, I don't know where to find that because I don't know about that. According to court documents, police in Dedham found Tuerk and McLean's car in the parking lot of a hotel. Yeah, it was the Residence Inn in Dedham, Legacy Place, where Tuerk had reserved a room from May 8th to 17th. Police wrote in a report they found Tuerk passed out in the bed in the hotel room with scrapes on his arms, legs, and forehead. Tuerk was taken to Norwood Hospital for treatment. In an interview at Norwood Hospital, police say Tuerk, who goes by the name Harry, admitted to fighting with his wife. He allegedly told police he strangled her, and he told them where the body was. Okay, so that's one article from May 2024 when he wanted to represent himself. I don't know what really happened with that. Yeah, it's inflammatory to Reddington. Exactly. Then they attached the article from November 2020 from Boston Magazine that we just read, or I just read to you. Then this is from his arraignment, a CNN article from May of 2020. And then there's Boston.com, May of 2020. So, I mean, this is not a huge amount of articles that are even recent in any way, shape, or form. 2 from 2024, one about Proctor and one about him wanting to fire Reddington, and then 3 from the beginning. So I don't know. I don't really think that supports his motion, but go on with your bad self and make it, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Thoughts, comments, concerns. Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Goodman, for your Venmo. He says, Mrs. G's been sick. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. G. I hope you're feeling better soon. Hang on. Gotta see what that says. But my phone wants to act kind of wonky right now. Thank you, Goodmans. Appreciate both of you. They're trying to outdo each other in super chats. It's so cute. It's so cute. Un momento. Oh. And they made signs. Did you want me to show the signs? I don't think you want me to show the signs, do you? Sometimes people send me pictures and I'm like, do not send me pictures of your dog bites. I totally believe that you have dog bites that look like John O'Keefe's dog bites. I don't need to see them. I won't open them and I can't unsee them. Brian Goodman says, Mrs. G has been sick for a week, but still following you and fellow YouTubers. Will email you the posters that she made. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. And I hope you feel better soon, Mrs. G. We miss you. Rest up. All right, let's see. Un momento. A couple of things. I asked some friends of Katie's to say, I asked them what they would want people to know about Katie, because I wanted to do a stream for Katie, talking about Katie. And here are some of the things what's going on here? Oh, it's like my wires are all crossed. I don't know what's going on. My hair is a mess. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's one of those days. What would you want people to know about Katie? Here is what they told me. Katie absolutely adored children. She was a much-loved preschool and CCD teacher, and she had a very special and genuine love and connection for kids. My heart breaks for her kids. I hope they're doing well. I don't think they're watching. I'm sure they're not watching, but if you guys are, I pray for you. I hope you're doing all right. I hope this is over soon for you. Time does not heal all wounds, but at least once this guy's in prison, maybe you can start to heal anyway. Katie loved donating her time. On holidays, she spent time helping feed people at homeless shelters. She loved being a mom, and she really wanted nothing more than the nuclear family. Many other people have told me that she loved so hard, and she just wanted to be loved. And she was always decorating for every holiday, cooking. Didn't matter if it was Christmas Day, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, any day, really. She loved to decorate. Katie was kind. Above all, she was kind. She was a curious blend of strength and sensitivity, and she had the ability to pick up when her friends and family were hurting or needed her help. Yet sometimes those kind of people don't appear or necessarily ask for it themselves. And she was a healer. A lot of people told me she was a healer. She was a Reiki master. And so she really, I guess she really thought she could fix him. I guess that's what she thought. She could fix him. So sad. She was funny. She did love to laugh, and she had a great deep laugh that could make you smile. She loved animals and being outside. She loved hiking, nature, the ocean, going for walks. Beautiful. She was absolutely beautiful. And that is what her friends tell me about Katie. If you knew Katie and you have anything in the chat to add, please add it. And I will read it. Thank you all for coming tonight and for coming to hang out with me and for learning more about Katie and Katie's too short life. She died at, I think, 45. Unfortunately, unalived, allegedly, by Dr. Harry Tuerk, who still sits in Norfolk County Jail and now is wanting to move his case out of Norfolk County to Suffolk County, specifically courtroom 817. We'll keep following. Let me know if you want to keep following, because we got to keep following it. Please let me know in the comments. Please also let me know in the comments what other cases you want to cover. Let's try and pick things that are not as divisive as, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, apparently. I'm in it for Karen Reed forever until she's acquitted. I'm here. Sometimes we got to learn about the other things that are going on in your neighborhood, in your county, that some of you did not even know were going on, or didn't even know that Dover was in Norfolk County. Oh, you guys have been sick for a week? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Keep following Katie, please. I know. Katie deserves it. Katie deserves justice. It's not evident that there was any police corruption or cover up in this case, and it seems that he confessed, but Katie deserves justice, and she didn't deserve anything that happened to her, no matter what some people may think she did. And in the end, who really knows? But she didn't deserve to be killed and thrown in a swamp, okay? It's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you, moderators, for keeping the chat classy. These stories are not always easy, but they're very, 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 very important. So maybe we can actually get Katie's case a little bit more media attention than Mr. Reddington, or at least get to the level that Reddington thinks it actually has that kind of media coverage. So there's that. They do, Olivia, they do, because when they took his 3-hour interview in the hospital, in the conference room at Norwood Hospital, after he came out of his 24-hour coma, his entire confession and statement, 3-hour statement, including a break, took a break, came back, waived his Miranda rights. It's all on audio. They've got it. And there's software called, I think, Speak Right, that transcribes it. So there's that. Thank you, my friends. Please smash the subscribe button. It's free. It helps the girl out. Push the stream out. Share it with your friends. Share it with anybody who you think needs to know about this, because as this case goes on, we're going to learn more and more as they start turning over stuff that had to do with Proctor and his text messages. And thank you, Margaret, who says thanks for giving a voice to the ignored. I think she deserves it. Thank you. Thank you, my friends. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. Love you all. Smash that like button on your way out. See you real soon. Probably tomorrow, so make sure you have your notification bell set so you don't want to miss the thing. Peace.